Welcome, everybody, to Crunch Time with Jeff, Booner, Lukas, and Gentry. It is Tuesday, June 4th, and we're here. Detroit Lions mandatory minicamp has begun, and with that comes a lot of storylines. We'll be going through all those storylines today. By the way, get your merch. OfficialCTSports.com.
Buy the merch, baby.
Got to. Fellas, how we feeling tonight?
Feel great. If it's Good Tuesday, it kind of feels like a little Monday. I don't know about you boys, but it feels good.
It does. Because last week, Memorial Day, everything's kind of thrown off. It does feel weird, Boone.
And because the Lions, like, typically, I guess Tuesday's like during the season an off day for the Lions. It feels like they first day of practice this week for the week. It's on a Tuesday. It feels like it's just like the Monday, everything with it. But a lot of things happened today. So I mean, I was staying busy here with the minicamp.
Yeah, we got a lot of content today. I reacted to the Matthew Betts report, which was it was very therapeutic for me. You know, it was just a time for me in the audience. You know, I got to just talk it through and realize where I stand in terms of our bet. I think Booner's probably a minus 400. You can get me now. Buy it now. Get it. It's like plus 600. You can buy it. You can get on my side here. But it was nice. You can check out that content. We also uploaded the Eli coming on, the Chicago Bears digital sports writer. So if you missed that interview last night, go watch that video today. Because
great conversation too.
He had a lot of gems in
perspective
that video as well. But fellas, we're going to get into it. Before we start, I do want to open it up with more of a lighthearted conversation. And Honolulu Blues has been doing this thing where they have like a poll for a couple different scenarios. And I've been kind of following it because it is kind of interesting. They had a poll today, and I'll just pull it up on screen. And they have another one. It's a different situation. And I'd love to get your guys' thoughts in the chat's thoughts on it. So let's pull this up and we'll vote on it because I have not voted on it yet. So we can check it out and see what the most logical answer is, because this is what it is. The Lions Genie will grant you an auto win or two. Which would you take? At 49ers, at Packers, sweep the Bears, or at Dallas to face the Cowboys?
Do you guys feel like this is obvious, or is it just me that thinks it's obvious?
I'm trying to think.
Do this, like, can you guys look at it in a certain way? Like, take out the bias of the NFC North. Like, obviously, like, you would love to sweep the Bears. Like, take just the bias away. Like, meaningful, like, now you're a Super Bowl contender. Like, just meaningful games. I think it's obvious what you like. The 49ers is the obvious answer. Like, you're competing for number 1 seed, and if you beat the 49ers, that's an automatic win. You have the advantage for the 1 seed if you take care of business. And then now the Super Bowl runs through Detroit. Like, you get an automatic win in San Fran. Now you host the San Francisco 49ers to go to a Super Bowl instead of having to go to San Fran, say if that isn't an automatic win. That's how I looked at it instantly. Like, I initially was like, sweep the Bears. And then I'm like, no, 49ers, like, you're fighting for the 1 seed. It has to be the 49ers.
I mean, there's multiple ways to look at it. For me personally, the only one that I'm immediately like, no, like, I'm not even, is the Cowboys, because I honestly think the Lions are going to dick the Cowboys down this year regardless of it. So I'm kind of putting that out of the way. For me, I'm going to go at Lambeau just because, Booner, it's hard. And I understand what you are saying. I understand 49ers are for the 1 seed. But for me, I think the 49ers, they could easily be just as good, but I could also see them dropping a game or two just because I think the NFC West is going to get a little bit better between the Cardinals and between the Rams. I know the Cardinals aren't anybody to like win that division, but I think they could surprise a few teams in trap games this year. I think Green Bay, they're going to be same tier as the Lions record-wise, and they're in the division, and I don't think the Lions are going to let them come into Detroit this year and beat them again. I think if the Lions beat them in Lambeau, they could potentially sweep them, so give me the Packers.
Yeah, because you got to think this is an auto win. So, if you pick the Packers, for example, it would mean you already have a win under your belt against the Packers on the road. So they would come to Ford Field, and at the very worst, you'd split instead of getting swept. To me, it was between the 49ers or the Packers. Sweep the Bears. It was intriguing because you get 2 wins. I saw someone said that. I was like, oh, okay, a little easy 2 wins there, because I think they split with the Bears. So that would be a good scenario. I didn't really think much into the Cowboys one, but I get it depends because they're both. I don't mind both, right? The 49ers, you can argue the 1 seed, and the Packers, you can argue, hey, just you think they'll win at home? Okay, then win at Green Bay, and then you get a sweep there, and the division's yours anyway.
Yeah,
So,
I
don't
Klotz,
know.
like I get your point with the Packers. Like the 49ers could take a step. I just don't like what's more likely to happen. Like the 49ers probably aren't going to actually take a step back. Like even if their division gets better, it's just like they're still going to be in the race for the 1 seed. I don't see them, like they're right now the Super Bowl favorites by like a mile. Like they're the number, they're plus 500 as the Super Bowl favorites. So like to beat the Super Bowl favorites at their place in your conference to kind of get the tiebreaker over the 1 seed, or maybe it puts you over to where you clinch it instead of just the tiebreaker. Like, and I get the Packers thing because you are going to be competing for a division essentially with them.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense, but like long term, like a Super Bowl or division, like if you're competing with the Packers for just the division, you're probably not competing for the 1 seed.
Well, I think that's a situation very well could be. But if I'm being honest, and the more I've been thinking about it, I think as the season goes on, I think the race for the 1 seed is going to be coming between Detroit and Philadelphia, just because how much I think Philadelphia is going to be able to abuse the NFC East. I think that's going to be a mess outside of Philadelphia this year. I could see Washington having some success, maybe being like a 7-8 win team. But Dallas is, I think, going to be irrelevant as far as a Super Bowl contender. The Giants are obviously going to be in the dumpster. So I could see Philadelphia being a 13-14 win team. And then just like we talked about the Rams, I think they could give the 49ers a run for the money within the division itself. So I think those could be 2 11, 12 win teams. And when you look at Philly, I think that's a 13-14 win team. So that's why it's like another reason why I'm kind of shying away from the Niners. But I do get what you're saying. If it's for the 1 seed, it's obviously big stakes as well.
I'm going to go sweep the Bears. Give me 2 wins.
Oh, my.
Give me 2 wins.
Okay,
I think this might be a narrative thing to get the Caleb Williams things off his chat or off his back.
Sweep the Bears.
He's doing PR right now.
Yeah.
Sweet.
smart.
Well, let's vote. So, actually, the Bears aren't too far down that list. All right, look at that. 49ers lead with 38%. The Packers 11.4. Bears 24.8, and the Cowboys actually were second, 25.5, which that's obviously for revenge purposes. But again, this is an auto win. So it's not that they won't win the Cowboys game. That's why I didn't vote Cowboy. I think they'll beat them regardless. So, hey.
Yeah, if you told me, like, hey, you split with the Bears, and you get an automatic win versus the 49ers, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah,
I'm taking that all day. So that's why I wouldn't even consider the Bears.
Speaking of the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey signed an extension, average of $19 million per year. They inked what?
The running back getting extended.
It's an interesting deal.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I did say he is the exception. Okay. That dude, I got nothing bad to say about Christian McCaffrey. That what he can do, not only running the football and being the best running back, but as a receiver. You could argue he's the best weapon, just all-around weapon in football. So, you can have Christian McCaffrey. Okay? If you have a Christian McCaffrey, he's worth the money.
Wasn't that part of that conversation we've had in the past with Jahmyr Gibbs? Yeah. It's like if he does turn into a weapon, not just like a running back, but a weapon like Christian McCaffrey, then when that time comes, that 5th-year option starts to come around, you're like, hey,
you
that's
can
a Christian McCaffrey type. We probably should pay him some money to stay. If you have the money. Like Bijan came out today and said, like, I'm trying to be like Christian I think there's a couple guys in the league who have the potential to do it, to make that money. Jahmyr Gibbs, I would put in that conversation.
Well, they gave him a 2-year extension, and Brock Purdy's due in 2 years. So it aligns with his rookie deal as well. So it's smart.
Did you guys see the graphic where it's like, congratulations, Christian McCaffrey. You just were one of the only running backs to ever be re-signed for this amount of money. You now make the same amount as Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, remember how they did the Jordan Poole?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Tim Hardaway is getting his bag too. He gets paid about that much as well.
The NBA money is insane, man. The NBA money is crazy.
It's different. It's different. Jordan Poole can get basically what Justin Jefferson got. So that's a thing.
My kid's going to be a hooper. Lock it in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not as much wear and tear, and you get paid way more.
Point guard.
It's harder to get a spot though. Not as big of a roster, but hey, you definitely get paid. All right, let's get to some of these quotes. All right, we're gonna play Dan Campbell on Matthew Betts. Okay, we're gonna get this out the way.
Wait. Can we do the other? Can we do the other scenario real quick? The Honolulu Blue one's the second one.
Yeah, sure. Actually, yeah, you're right. It is.
I'm
a
actually.
fun one.
That was the only one that I didn't really care about. The other one. This is the one that I was like interested to see your two's takes on it, because I already typed up my notes. I have my notes on it.
No, he's got the Booner notes out.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys pick
right,
on this. And I'm not even gonna try and be like hostile on this. I want to see what people actually think in regards to this.
So here's the scenario. Okay.
See where you voted.
No, actually, I didn't even vote for. I don't know. I must have. I did. I have a different answer, and I commented on this actually, and what I actually think. I don't want to show it to give it away, but I clicked on Hutch to see the results, and as you can see, Hutch is leading it. But it basically, for people that are listening, the Lions Genie will grant you one wish for a Lions player. What do you choose? Amon-Ra St. Brown getting 1,800 plus receiving yards, J-Mo 1,200 total yards, Gibbs 20 total TDs, or Hutch 18 plus sacks. I voted J-Mo 1,200 total yards, because if J-Mo gets 1,200 yards, that proves everyone that's fought so hard for J-Mo, like that's right there's the. And I'm gonna be honest, I think Amon-Ra has the potential to get close to that amount of yards, and Gibbs has the potential to get close to that amount of TDs. And I think
you
Hutch
picked J-Mo
to get that amount of sacks. Not saying J-Mo doesn't, but that would be like shut up all the people that think he's a bust. So I think for at least my narrative, I'm gonna go with J-Mo, so I can brag to Adam, talk shit to him.
It's interesting that you picked J-Mo. I have a comeback for you. I'll let Klotz go. I'll have something to take you off of that.
I'm torn because I really want to say Hutch 18 plus sacks, but I'm standing on my Jahmyr Gibbs hill. If he gets 20 plus touchdowns, he's top 3 in the league. I think the offense is flourishing. If J-Mo gets 1,200 yards, I feel like something's wrong. Like it's either Amon-Ra got hurt or the Lions are trailing in a lot of games. And it's not saying that he can't, but I feel like there'd be something or a situation that the Lions didn't expect heading in. If Jahmyr Gibbs gets 20 total touchdowns, I think the offense is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. So give me Jahmyr Gibbs 20 total TDs. But I'm not going to be like Hutch 18 plus sacks.
I'm very happy. I'm so happy that you two picked the two you did, because now it sets up to where I can probably have the most realistic take that I've ever had on this show, or in my career. On my career doing this and doing content. Fellas, I get what you're saying. If Jahmyr Gibbs gets 20, like you still have D-Mott. Like you combined for 20 plus touchdowns already with your two running backs.
Yeah, but I want Jahmyr.
By the conversation, that's the selfish. But when we're talking about Super Bowl, that's selfish. What D-Mott said today, we're going to go over it in a little bit. D-Mott, it sounded like that. I'm going to have to admit I was wrong later in the show, so stick around for that. And the Jameson Williams thing, Jeff, I'm shocked you picked Jameson Williams, because you're the one that's like very, very hard on, hey, there's only a certain amount of yards that can go around in this offense. And we talked about Jameson Williams being like, if he gets 800 to replace that Josh Reynolds and replace his from last year, guys, you guys picked two offensive ones. This offense was top 5 for the past 2 seasons. And if you picked either, like, all you need is J-Mo to get 800, and you just need Jahmyr Gibbs and D-Mont to do what they did last year. And your offense is top 5, if not the best in the NFL for a 3rd straight year. So, like, you don't need to pick those to continue to win. What you need is your defense to go from 25th to top 10 in the NFL. And the only way you're going to do that is, 1, the secondary, which they addressed. And number 2, if you address the secondary the way you did, if Aiden Hutchinson goes out there and puts 18 plus sacks up and wins Defensive Player of the Year, you have a top 10 defense and a top 5 offense. You're winning the Super Bowl. And it might be one of the most dominant seasons of all time. Think about that. Come on, guy. Like, I thought cute. And that's literally what I put in my notes. I said if Hutch gets 18, that means his defense just took a massive step forward. J-Mo 1,200 is the other option I would pick, but you do not need him to get 1,200 yards for this. Like, this offense can't take that much more of a step forward, Jeff. And you know that. Like, they can stay consistent, and they can become the best offense in the NFL. But like, when you really break it down, like, you just need him to get to that 18, maybe 1,000 yard mark. 1,200, to Klotzy's point, like, let's be realistic here. Like, let's not mess around for a second. Like, that's realistic.
Yes.
Same with the touchdowns.
But here's where I'm coming from with the J-Mo thing. And this is what I brought up with the yard thing. If J-Mo has a tremendous year, and gets, let's just say hypothetically he gets 1,000+ yards, that would mean Laporta would have to dip, or somebody would have to dip, obviously. I guess I was more looking at it for like, it would be fun to talk about JMO if he went off like that. I wasn't trying to like be, because of course, like the most real, if you're talking about what would help, you're absolutely right, Bill. Aiden Hutchinson getting 18+ sacks.
You two went. Let's see what fits my narrative. That I know what you two did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I mean, if I'm keeping it real, if JMO gets 800 yards, that doesn't answer questions to anybody.
What do you mean? No, if he goes out there and gets 800 yards, he's wide receiver 2. That's the missing piece.
But that doesn't answer. That doesn't justify being a.
But you don't need to justify and answer questions for JMO. You need him to go out there and win football
Everyone's
games.
like, "Whoa, that's the potential."
Yeah, but
dude, that's what.
But again, if he goes out there and gets 1,200, it's at the expense of maybe someone else or some wins or this or like you said, someone goes down. Like you need him to go out there and be wide receiver 2, get 800, 900 yards, and be fine with that. And then he knows that. Like I put the post out on our social today of him just being like, "Hey, what are your goals today?" And he was just like, "I just want to win. Like they won without me. They're gonna win in the future without me. Like I want to help win now." Like he knows that.
This is if a genie grants you a wish, it's not most likely to happen.
Dude, if he granted us a wish and you guys picked those two, I think I would drive to your house and tackle you on the spot if you didn't pick Aiden Hutchinson 18.
Couldn't. I'd have Gibbs around me. Big play Gibbs.
Like
that.
I
read this as if a genie grants you a wish, not like most realistic to happen. Because
not most realistic. If they grant you a wish for a scenario to help you win a Super Bowl, the most thing that will help is the defensive one.
Well, Booner, I'm not worried about Hutch getting 18+ because I know Marcus Davenport's going to get me 6, so I can sleep
Marcus
well.
Marcus Davenport hasn't even touched the field this offseason.
No, your points are spot on, Booner. Like that's why I said like it's hard to argue against it. But just for me personally, I would just love to see Jahmyr Gibbs go out there and get 20+. I just think, especially to Jeff's point, I know everybody knows that Jahmyr Gibbs is legit, but to see him with all the criticism Brad took around taking him 12, and then he can come out and be a top 3 running back behind this offensive line, I think that leads to a lot of wins.
Booner had the most fair take, but I don't like that. It's not fun. So I went with JMO.
I agree with you guys. Super Bowls aren't fun. But
I didn't look at it. Okay, fine. You know what? Aiden Hutchinson, 18 sacks to win a Super Bowl. But I was having fun. I went with what would fit my narrative. If a genie granted me a wish, everyone talks about potential, and I think he has potential. If he goes out there and gets 1,200, by the way, not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But if
we're doing narratives, I would add one to the list and say Jared Goff wins MVP.
Well, Amon-Ra 1,800 fits your narrative.
It does. Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's get to it. Dan Campbell, big fan of Matthew Betts, and I'm on the stand today. I am on the stand today, and we're going to talk about it. So let's play the clip. Let's hear Dan Campbell praise the Canadian football god. All right, let's put this up so people can react to it. If you haven't seen the clip, it is good. It's on a social at Official CT Pod, but here it is.
Bets that I would tell you there's there again, we're in pajamas, but there's more versatility to this guy than I think I even realized. There's a couple of things we're doing in coverage with him that that wasn't his deal. He just got after the quarterback, period. And we're asking him to do some things kind of at the Sam linebacker position and base to where, he's a rush, but he's also dropping in coverage. He's matching a little bit. And I tell you what, he's got some pretty good hips for a big man, and he can run, and he's smart. So there's some versatility there. And special teams. Yes, sir. Bets?
Okay.
Okay.
Gather
he
around.
Froze? He froze on my end.
All right. Let's gather around. Let's have a conversation. All right. So I made a video today, talked about it, and I want to give a shout out to someone who was in lockstep with me when we brought up the possibility of him making the roster, and that was Sick Argument, just based off the fact, and Booner, and we'll get to Booner in a second, but Sick Argument brought up the other day about special teams and how that could definitely affect him making the roster, and I did agree with that. I think special teams is a route for a lot of guys to make the roster. Dan Campbell even mentioned he's got a little bit of coverage in him. The little Sam linebacker. He's got fluid hips. fluid hits.
God.
And you know what? I am curious once these guys like they go into training camp and he's competing and you get pads on and things kind of ramp up a little bit, how he matches up, because from what the coaching staff's saying, they do like Matthew Betts. All right. I'm still firm with my bet. I do have a pizza on the line with Booner. If he makes the roster, I owe Booner a pizza. And if he does not, I get a pizza.
Cannot wait to indulge.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, I am happy. I don't. Of course, I'm not going to root against the man. I don't want that to be like the narrative. I don't want to root against him. But hey, he was facing he was facing an uphill battle coming here to the NFL from the CFL, and so far, he's playing his ass off. So, like Dan said, they're in pajamas, but once pads get put on, we'll see. And so far, he's been impressing people. So kudos to him, man.
I would like to, Jeff, and this is no disrespect towards you. I love you a ton. I respect your word. I just would like you to take back the initial statement you just made, saying that I was on the same page, a sick argument that if he can make it, it's special teams. I don't think you're allowed to say that, because from the start you said he will never make the roster. Rebuttal?
Yeah, but that's not completely fair though, because
that doesn't fit the narrative.
No, it's just not fair, right? Like just because you say something, you get new information. I'm like, oh yeah, that is true. Like special teams would definitely be a way to make the roster. I can't. I'm not allowed to say it now because no, I'm not going to die on
the reason I say that is because the initial conversation that I had and a guy like Matthew Betts, we know he wasn't like from the jump, and I made it very clear from the jump. Matthew Betts was never going to make the team to be the premier edge rusher on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson. It was always going to be a very, very deep edge piece, and it was always going to be special teams. That was always it for Matthew Betts. We knew, like, he's been on practice squads in the NFL before. He's jumped around. He's been in the CFL, and he had the season of his life. And I think everyone knew kind of what he was coming into here. Now there are people and fans and people even in our chat who think that Matthew Betts can go out there and be the next big thing. I don't see that being like, that's definitely not going to be it, but it's like, hey, can he be a good special teams player for this team? Yes. And at the same time, can he as well be depth if someone goes down throughout the season and you have someone who can go in there and just hold their own? Yeah. Like that was the thing the whole time with Matthew Betts. I don't think unrealistic expectations saying, hey, he's going to go out there and get 18 sacks as well in the NFL. Like, not even 5. Like, what was the expectation that we set to where if he does play, what do we say, 2 or 3 sacks? Like if he does that for you, you're probably really happy with that. Like you're like, wow, that was a great, that's great that he even gave you that. So I don't think from the jump there was something to where it's like he's going to go out there and get you a 10-sack season. It's more so, hey, having the depth there behind Marcus Davenport, who's injury prone, James Houston, the commish, Levi and Josh Pascal, whoever, or Mekhi Wingo, whoever rotates out there. Like that is kind of where the Matthew Betts fill-in goes. I don't think it was ever more so that. And if there are people who think that, I mean, we can wait and see until after training camp, then we can have that conversation. That was all I was saying with that, Jeff, was from the jump when we were having this conversation, I made it very clear it was special teams and very no. I asked Klotz. I said it was it's bottom depth for defensive edges, and if you're depth, you're a special teams guy.
You can't connect it now.
So I can't stand on that, but you can now turn it around and say, oh well,
okay,
if
you know what?
He does
Fine,
make
I'll
it,
give you that. Even though I didn't hear you
there's
say
no
it,
chance he would make it on this team, no matter what. No matter what.
I'm gonna be honest. I still don't think he'll make the roster.
That's what I was gonna say. Like this press conference is great and everything, but I'm still like, think about all the names you just listed, and then you got to cut it down to a 53-man roster. There was still a lot of hype with a lot of guys coming into last offseason. That we were talking about guys like Dylan Drummond, Chase Cota. Obviously, I know they're different positions, but there was still a lot of hype around the guys in camp, and they didn't make the roster. Why? Because they just weren't simply good enough to play in the NFL. And Matthew Betts, historically, going off the record, has been that. And when you look, okay, now he's got to do that in a Super Bowl contending team where when you look at the edge room, no, it's not great. But when you talk about, there's a lot of guys as far that are there as depth that know the system. So I would be shocked still if Matthew Betts made the roster. Like to Jeff's point, I'm not praying against his downfall, but I'm just not ready to just be like, all right, instantly making the roster off this interview, because it's not. I don't think Dan would go out there and just bash the man. He's probably surprised because he is holding up better than he thought. But I don't think he had some sky-high bar. I think the expectations for him coming into camp, especially that he's 29, weren't that high. So if he's performing a little bit, that's great. But at the end of the day, like you said, they're in pajamas. He's still got to go up against Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker, the likes of those guys. And that's where if we see footage of him coming out of camp holding his own there, then maybe I'll be like, all right, let's go. But he's still got to get through a preseason. I'm just not sold off that. And I'm not saying you're stupid for saying that he's going to make the roster. Just in my opinion, I would be shocked.
I'll take another pizza bet with you too, because I do have confidence in him.
We can throw in on it, Boone.
All right, a pizza with you as well. I do think like he's going to have an opportunity. If you picked a position group and in a whole group in this whole team, edge is like the perfect one for him to be able to go there and say, hey, this is a very, very thin group. Like this position group is very thin. And they're outside of Matthew Betts. Like they're can you guys name anyone in that edge room outside of Matthew Betts, behind Matthew Betts, without looking anything up?
I mean, when you look at guys like John Kaminsky and Josh Paschal, I think those are guys that he's going to have a hard time competing with. And then when you look at what they're trying to do with Mekhi Wingo, Marcus Davenport, there's going to be probably 4 or 5 guys that are going to be under that besides Hutch. And I think right now Betts is probably still at the bottom of that.
Yeah, but again,
will he have an opportunity?
Like
yeah, he'll obviously. But if you're special teams, you got to be making the roster as a defensive end. He's not going to be making the roster as special teams. CJ Moore is a safety. He's got to make the safety cut. If he doesn't,
Klotz, I'm telling you, look at the edge room. And if they're going to keep any extra players, it's going to be in that room because injuries and in depth in that room. That's going to be where you keep. I get what you're saying,
but as far as making maybe as a practice squad player, like I said, okay, maybe he can be the Stephen Gilmore of this year. Like that's a situation I could see happening. But it's him making the final 53-man roster and traveling with the team every week. That's just not a situation I see happening. I understand we look down at the guys after Aiden Hutchinson, but look at their NFL production compared to Matthew Betts' NFL production, because he has had opportunities before. So that's why I just think it's going to be difficult.
Hey, our bet's still alive. I do respect the special teams argument. I respect it. It's a nice argument. I think the special teams is a way for him to get on the roster. But I'm still going to stand pat. I think he'll be somebody that if there's an injury, you call up Matthew Betts and, he'd come up and play. But we shall see. I mean, Dan Campbell giving him praise is great. I mean, hey, that obviously, he's not going to trash him, but the fact that he did say he's got more versatility, that's a good thing. Versatility also helps you make the roster. So, hey.
Grit. I mean, this isn't like a normal NFL team. It's you can make the roster off just working hard. And as much as you want to think that's crazy, there has been guys that have that's happened to with this team and in this regime, I would say. That seems to be the trend with Matthew Betts right now.
Well, let's pull up Dan speaking about the secondary, because he also praised who they have and the amount of depth they have. And we're going to get to some player interviews later in the show. But here's Dan Campbell on this Lions secondary.
You feel like you guys are kind of wide open and figuring this thing out in terms of what the best way to deploy everybody is?
Yes. It's a great place to be in. It's a great place to be in. We have so many options right now, so much competitiveness. AG and we're talking about it again. AG and I were the other day. Brad and I are talking about it every evening. I mean, it's like, the talent level, the competitiveness, the versatility. Like, honestly, we have no idea who our starting lineup is going to be right now. And it's exciting. It's so good. Like, there's no telling who's going to be our outside corners, who's going to be our nickel, who's going to be our safeties. I mean, this thing is wide open across the board. And it's going to be great to let these guys compete and just go after it and see who goes and is going to be the most reliable guys for us, most dependable. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. The amount of depth they have and hearing, by the way, I listened to the player interviews. Amik Robertson, I'm in love with him. He's an absolute dog. And he's got that versatility to play in the slot, play nickel, and play on the outside. He's a competitor. I think the secondary, not just the secondary, but that cornerback room, they were moving things around. They had Terrion at CB1 during OTAs. They had Carlton at CB1. They had Khalil Dorsey at CB2. They're just like moving guys around, just trying things. Hopefully, the Khalil Dorsey thing, don't look too much into it. Or Kindle Vildor, rather, don't look too much into it. But, man, they got some guys, man, that – and it's not about – I saw a comment today on a video I posted recapping some of Minicamp, just what I read. And someone brought up, I was talking about how Branch could be moved back to safety. And they're like, I don't know why Jeff always says he's moving back to safety. I think Branch is great in the slot. He's great at nickel, but I think if you want to get your best players on the field, you might have a situation where Branch is playing safety. If you want to get Amik in the slot and you want to have Carlton and Terrion Arnold, that's how I looked at it. But what'd you guys make of the video?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, the one takeaway I have is essentially coming out of all of this. It's the conversation we've had as soon as the draft was done. It's these guys are going to compete. And if you watch some of Amik Robertson's conversations today at the press conference, like he just keeps saying like, hey, we're just going to like, we have so many good players in this secondary. It's essentially just iron sharpening iron. And that's all it comes down to. It's like these guys are already good. Like the reports out of camp today and the docs in the chat, I'm sure he could tell you the defense is dominating the offense. And that's the thing to where it's like your offense has been your bread and butter the last 2 seasons. And I know it's just camp, so we don't want to take too much out of it. And we want to wait till training camp and preseason and the season. But your defense is starting to take a step forward, it feels like, throughout these mandatory mini camps and OTAs. And now you have this secondary that last year, that was your problem the last 2 or 3 years, is you had no secondary. And now all of a sudden, Brad Holmes says, hey, I'm going to bring Amik in. And now I'm not just going to bring Amik in. I'm going to go draft 2 guys in the 1st and 2nd round. And I'm going to have, obviously, Brian Branch. And we're going to go trade for Carlton Davis. Like, we're going to make this as hard as possible for this secondary to go out there and get on the field. And that's just going to make this secondary that much better. And you still have Iffy and Kirby. And now you have Brandon Joseph who's starting to get in the mix. And, like, you're just starting to add these pieces. And now that you have 6, 7, 8 guys back there who are all elite, not elite, but, like, great football players. And they're just going to go at each other's heads, and it's going to make each other better. That's what you saw today in the minicamp was like this secondary dominated. Like that was the story of today at minicamp was this secondary. And Dan Campbell, before they even went on the field, spoke about how he's so excited to see these guys and who comes out on top with these positions. He said he has no idea who's going to play any position. Like, yeah, we could sit here and break it down. He said he's moving everyone around. Amik is like, I'm ready to play anywhere you want. Like that's the mindset that makes me like, here we go. Like this secondary might be one of the best in the NFL just based off them bringing these guys together and saying like, it's like, what's that? You just throw like a lions and you throw like a steak in the middle and just winner gets the steak. Like throw these guys in there and like who the best get out. That's what they've done. And it actually might work out for the better for this team.
Well, and here's what I think about the secondary. We can't obsess too much on who's starting and who's not because there's going to be a lot of guys that play snaps. Even if, let's say, Branch and Iffy, for example, start. Or for example, Iffy and Kirby are starting at safety, and then you have Branch at nickel, and Amik's not starting. They're always going to be able to different packages to get these guys out on the field. So I don't want anyone to overreact to who's playing, who's starting, who's not. And John brought that up on the show too, and it's a great point because they have so many guys that are capable that there are, besides obviously Carlton, he's going to be playing, he's CB1, and Terrion, but they'll be interchangeable parts that I just think when you have that much depth, sometimes you got to ride the hot hand. If someone's playing really well, he's going to play more, and I think they have capable guys. Like Amik was a starter last year. And they have multiple starters at safety, and they have Terrion, who's a first-round pick, and Carlton, who's a proven CB1. Like, they just have – and then Mosley, who he's kind of a wild card to me. They just have a lot of guys that, I think the secondary – and we'll get to it in a little bit here. Like you said, Booner, the secondary was locked down, man. I mean, they were playing well. And that I think I don't know if it was Dorsey or Vildor who had a pick, but even those guys, they were – and I know I get it's pajamas. I don't want to
contagious, though. Like that,
but the secondary, man, no, they're getting that confidence up. That's really what it is playing corner. If they're playing with confidence, this is going to be a dangerous secondary.
Am I good, fellas? Can you hear and see me clear?
You're good now.
The one thing that I'm interested to see, especially the fact that the Rams are week 1, is I would not be surprised at all if week 1 it was Carlton Davis, Emmanuel Mosley, and Amik Robertson. Because if you want to start week 1 off, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, well, guess who was playing for the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC West against Cooper Kupp twice a year? Emmanuel Mosley. And I think he's got a lot to prove. And we already saw with these rookies, they're going to breathe regardless. But here, let me give me my Wi-Fi fix, fellas. You guys keep cooking.
Yeah.
I will say this, too. Just
go ahead.
Real quick. Like, when you do think about this, like, hold on a sec. the Terrion Arnold thing. Yeah, I don't know. I lost track of what I was going to say, and then I got it. I was like, oh, here we go, boy. No, because Klotz went out, and then I was like, no, the Terrion. Like, I don't even know if Terrion Arnold is a full go right now. But like, not even having a guy like you said, these guys are. It's like they're in pajamas practicing right now. So in the fact that you have the competitiveness this early with that secondary right there, to me shows that when the pads get put on and training camp comes around and the season comes around, think about how much more these guys are going to compete together. And it all starts. And I'm interested to hear your kind of like point of view on this as well. But I feel like the whole defense, especially in today's NFL, like passing defense to me is number one. Like, yeah, you want to get to the quarterback. You have these quarterbacks now in the NFL, like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen's, but like passing defenses will make or break seasons and games. Like, if you don't have a secondary out there, you're not going to win a football game because it is a passing league now. And like Alex Anzalone said it today when he spoke with the media, was like, this is a passing league. In the last couple of years, he was like, it was very well known that we needed to upgrade in the secondary and in that corner. And he said, he was like, Brad went out and he addressed the holes in that, and he addressed it big time by taking a first rounder, a second rounder, and Carlton Davis and Amik. Like, and he says, like, as a linebacker, that helps them out that much more, like more than people even realize how much a great secondary will help out the guys up front. So like they addressed that, and I think like you're going to start seeing like what is the saying, the fruits of the labor as soon as the season comes around with these guys, because you just upgraded your secondary to be potentially one of the best in the NFL. And that's gonna be a game changer.
You know what I think about Rakestraw? And I thought about this today because he's been limited, and I don't have an issue with that because we kind of knew what to expect when he was drafted. I don't know if I know people are. We had the conversation. Could he be in the slot? I don't think you'll see Rakestraw, to be honest, in the beginning. I don't think you'll see him for probably a bit of time because these reps are so important right now, and he's getting reps. He's out there, but he's limited, and he's not participating with the ones and playing like with Terrion Arnold, for example. I just think you got to understand, like the Lions are so patient with a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, who was a tremendous player and could have played right away. How do you handle a guy like Rakestraw who's kind of slowly coming along? Like, I think it'll take some time before you see Rakestraw in the season. Like, I think he'll have to earn that. I don't think I think Terrion's out there week one in some capacity. I don't think Rakestraw is.
No, I'm kind of with you essentially because like the room's stacked. Not just the corner room, but the safety room. Now you have Brandon Joseph. Like you talked about, okay, we can move Brian Branch to safety because that might be where he's best at. But what happens if, say, a Brandon Joseph comes in and he's, hey, we need to get this guy on the field. He's playing extremely well right now. And I know it's crazy to think because he's undrafted. He's an undrafted free agent, and you're sitting there, you're like, how did he? If you heard Brad talk about him today, Brandon Joseph seems like a guy who's going to have an opportunity to get some snaps. And you still have Kirby and Iffy. So it's like, all right, what do you do with Branch at that point? He obviously he's going to be in one of those. So someone's going to get left out, and it's not a bad thing. It's because there's going to be guys that get beat out because you have such a deep room, and the other guys are going to get opportunities because let's just say what it is. There's going to be injuries throughout the season and even in training camp and in preseason. So guys are going to have opportunities. If I had to pick a guy who would say, yeah, maybe it's better to kind of say, hey, sit out. Let's get you to develop a little bit more. Like get used to the NFL. Let's get you kind of more reps and get you going because, we still have a guy here like Amik Robertson who has he's done this already. Brian Branch who's been doing this for a whole year already. I would have to say Rakestraw is that guy.
I see a season for Rakestraw. Like if you tell me how his season goes, he'll play special teams. He'll be out there. But in terms of playing corner or being in the secondary and playing snaps, meaningful snaps, I think it's going to take a handful of weeks. But and that's with him improving and showing in practice that like he's ready, And honestly, there's a lot of depth. I mean, Brandon Joseph, I'm glad you brought him up because Dan Campbell mentioned it today that last year he wanted to bring Brandon Joseph up. He was showing tremendous improvement. They just weren't able to do so. And Brandon Joseph, like I know he was undrafted, but guys, there's a lot of productive players in this league that are undrafted. Like that shouldn't, hinder.
What's the percentage? Like 30 or 40% of players?
It's a decent amount. I don't know if it's that much, but there is a good percentage. Like honestly, Boone, if you go through Pro Bowlers, there's probably a couple that are undrafted. Honestly, but you look at a guy like Brandon Joseph, dude, Notre Dame guy, but I think
11.
I think he went to Northwestern, 11%. That's still a good dude. That's
starters, 11%
Yeah.
of starters.
But when he was at Northwestern, I mean, he was productive. And I know Klotz knows. I mean, he knows probably a lot more about Brandon Joseph, but they love him, and he's got now a year to develop. I think he's good depth. Like, I'm gonna be honest, even though CJ Moore is he's a special teams savant. Brandon Joseph, I think, could be he's a better player right now. If you're talking about backup safety, like Jeff Risdon wrote about this, in terms of having a true cover, a cover safety, someone who thrives in coverage, and they didn't have Kirby out there. Obviously, he's dealing with an injury. But Brandon Joseph, he had a pick today too. Like, he's impressive.
He did. Big
I
time.
think as training camp, that's another guy to pay attention to.
Real quick, to Klotz, just let's call a spade with Brad Holmes in the safety room. He's found guys late in the draft, whether it's late in the draft or UDFAs, like Kirby Joseph, Ife Melifonwu, and now you could say Brandon Joseph. Like, that's one position. And yeah, even if he's moved guys around a little bit, that's been a position that's been successful. And the fact that they're able to look at this and say, hey, we think Brandon Joseph can be a dude. Like, the fact they're able to say that puts a lot, like, it kind of gives it a little bit of respect, because you do have guys like Kirby Joseph and Ife in the building like that.
I'm just laughing at Klotz.
Did we lose Klotzy? That smile? I don't know
think
if
he liked that Brandon Joseph comment. I think he did. But
doesn't that show a lot though with Brandon Joseph? Like, you have those safeties in the building, Brian Branch, Ife, and Kirby, and they're still like saying like, hey, Brandon Joseph's been showing out. Like, he's standing out, and you have those safeties in the room. It's interesting.
Well, let's listen to Amik Robertson, because I have this clip from the press conference today, and it's essentially Amik Robertson on his ability to play multiple positions and kind of his versatility. So let me get this loaded up for you guys, and we could play it, because I think you guys are going to love what he said in this video. I do. And this is a great clip. I listened to the whole thing, and I've never really heard like Amik really speak. Like, he hasn't really spoken a lot. I know he had his introductory press conference, but it was nice to hear his perspective. So here's Amik Robertson on just his versatility.
You can play a lot of different stuff, and does that kind of speak to that compete level?
I mean, in his most, in the most humblest way, man. I think, overall, I'm a football player. So whatever they need me in, nickel, corner, I could put myself in a position to make plays, and that's what they expect, from me. That's why I'm here, So whatever they need me to do, man, that's what I'm gonna do.
How have they split your time? Is there a place where they apparently feel more comfortable with you than another?
Nah, you heard the GM say, when they first got me, they saw me play nickel, but what opened their eyes is when they saw me at corner as well, So, like I said before, wherever they put me on the field, that's, I'll be successful, because at the end of the day, I'm a football player, and that's what I push myself to be each and every day.
He's a dog.
I'm a fan.
I
am a big fan.
They set him up with that question too, where they were like, I don't know who, I forgot who asked the question, but like, you have a preference? Mm-mm. I just want to be out there.
They asked him a couple times too.
Yeah, they tried to, because that's the door opening for him to be like, well, I like to play more at nickel, or I like to play outside. He's like, I'm a football player. That's what I am. Love Amik, man. He's a dog.
I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think the competition that I'm going to be excited to watch all camp is between him and Ennis Rakestraw, because I think if you watch Ennis Rakestraw, he's just made to play the nickel position. I think with how physical he is, with being able to impact the run, it's going to be interesting. But Amik, I don't see a way that Amik does not start week one, because I think he's a guy that you can go out there and you can trust him to just be able to blend with this unit. And he's going to be a guy that, he's 5'9", but he plays like he's 6'1". So when they put him on the outside, which I'm sure will happen to some points, I'm not going to be panicking. And that's the exact opposite of last year. When you saw the corners last year, Amik Robertson compared to Vildor, compared to Akuda, compared to Jerry Jacobs, levels above him. So to have him in the roster, and then you talk about, when you talk about at the end of the season, he could be your fourth best corner. It's an exciting conversation to have, and it's one that I'm excited to watch play out.
Yeah, he 5'9". I don't even care. He got a lot of heart. Plays with heart.
All heart.
Yeah, that's
5'9" heart.
Players that have faced a lot of adversity and they've been able to overcome it and be who they are. And he obviously earned a pretty good contract. I don't count him out. I could see him. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, how he's the guy that, like, I think people are sleeping on a little bit. I can't wait till training camp because I think that's going to be, you're probably going to see more of that, like more of, Amik Robertson showing out, making plays. And he's very selfless. Like he even brought up in the interview, we don't have the clip, but when I watched it, and this is what stood out to me, like the character side, when they asked him, because, and I listened to Shannon Sharp talk about this a lot because Shannon, he mentioned before how when he was a rookie, he had a vet tell him the wrong route and he ran the wrong route because they were competing for a spot on the roster. And he learned that day, like, I'll never do that to another player. I'll always help him. Like that guy literally tried to get him cut.
That's crazy.
And that stuck with me, and I always use that, and that's why when they asked him, like, what about the secondary room? Like, are you guys competing? Like, how's it? And he's like, no, we're all trying to help each other. And I'm like, see, like,
which helps elevate.
Yeah, that's a good thing, man. Not every team has that, by the way. There's teams where guys are coming at each other's throats trying to get a roster spot, and I know they know that, but like this, even though they're deep, man, they're all trying to make each other better. That's what
you're trying to elevate everyone together, like help each other. Which that room, like with Amik, I do remember when he said that today, Jeff. So like they're like, yeah, that's huge to have those guys being like, hey, we're a family, we're a team, we want to make each other better because we all have the same goal in mind. Now at the end of the day, like they're still going to compete for the spot and they're going to go out there and be competitive. That makes it even more competitive, in my opinion. That hey, like we're side by side, just going at it, like mano a mano. Here we go. What I think though, Amik, I want to know what you guys think, but like. I see Amik this happening for him. He's going to be the guy in the secondary that's just your Swiss Army knife, to where there's going to be a lot of, like, we know what it is. There's going to be injuries throughout the season. Guys are going to go out for a game or two. Guys are going to get moved around. There's going to be matchups. Things are going to happen. Amik at every point is going to play a different position. He's going to be moving around a ton. That's how he's going to stay on the field all year. That's kind of how I see it. And obviously you don't want injuries or anything like that, but he's just a guy that's going to be able to, he's a vet. He's been in the league now. He knows what it takes to compete in all these different positions. He's going to be a guy that goes out there and it's, hey, Carlton's down for a week. All right, we got to move guys around. All right, Meek's able to move around. Like, without even a question, we're going to be able to move this guy anywhere he wants, and like very, very reliable. And that's kind of how I see Amik Robertson. Because like Jeff's the class, but when you're off too, like Jeff even said, like he thinks Ennis Rakestraw is going to take a couple weeks to get in.
Yeah.
So okay, you have Amik there at the nickel. All right, so when Rakestraw, maybe his time comes up, all right, we can move Amik somewhere else. If someone's struggling or something's happening, like Amik's a guy that like consistently he's going to be good, and you're never going to have to worry about him not playing hard and not going out there and working. And it's like he's going to be able to play a very, very versatile player.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at, he really took off when Antonio Pierce took charge of that, just like pretty much every player. But I mean, you look at Antonio Pierce, and then you look at the style he coaches. You even just look at Aaron Glenn; it's very similar. And then you look at who Amik had to man up on within that division. You got the Chargers, so you had Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. You go to Denver. I know Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy aren't elite wide receivers, but those are twice a year. Those are guys that can definitely get you. And then who else? The Chiefs was Rashee Rice. So, and if you watch, Rashee Rice got put on his ass by by Amik. So it's going to be, like I said, it's interesting to see where they put him, because I don't think, maybe week one he's starting outside in front of Terrion, but I don't think he's a guy that's going to be starting in front of Terrion for long. If he does, I think he's going to be playing a lot of nickel. But to Booner, your point, I think Brian Branch is the ultimate Swiss Army knife of this defense, but what he does is more in the safety room, right? Like he's going to do strong safety, free safety, and probably a little bit of nickel. But with Amik, you can move him inside and outside with corner. So he's definitely going to be a nice little chess piece that Brad Holmes and Aaron Glenn, they're going to be able to take advantage of, especially with this division and all the wide receivers.
Well, let's play some clips here, because Dave Montgomery also spoke, and he had some good quotes, and one of them actually does kind of fit my narrative. All right, and we're gonna get to it.
I've got a statement. I've got a statement as well.
Do you kind of know what video?
I do, and I have a statement. It's going to be something. It's going to be something for the people to stick around for.
Well, here's. I love Booner. I love those little he teases. Look at that, Boone. What a pro! All right, let's play Dave Montgomery, and let's listen to what he had to say.
I'm seeing the Detroit track shirts on a few of you guys. Is that a new thing this year, and what is the emphasis of that?
Oh yeah. We want to run a lot, fast. So Ben Johnson. So we're just following his lead, but yeah, we definitely want to run faster and more.
Well, when he says something, and I think this is Ben. trying to just always get better. I don't think this is like a surprise. Every year they're going to be like, we want to run more. Like you want to always make sure the run game is at peak performance. But I think that's also been knowing that this defense is going to be much better. So they're going to want to. There's going to be situations where they're not in shootouts, and they're not always going to have to throw the ball around the field. Which kind of goes into a point I tend to make a lot on this show, which, it's not everyone's, maybe Amon Ra getting to 17, 1800, maybe off the table a little bit, maybe all these guys getting all this production, maybe a little off the table. That's just where I took from it, Boone. But what's your statement?
Yeah, are we able to play the other D-Mount one just so I can follow up with that one on the statement too? Because I think they both are pretty. I think both of these videos are pretty similar when it comes to your point here.
Well, I have. We'll play the other two because I don't know exactly.
The Jahmyr Gibbs one. It says him and Jahmyr Gibbs. Let me see. Hold on, I can check which one so you don't play the wrong one. Actually, it's the very first one here from D-Mont that I said, not the Vaki one, because there's a Vaki one and there's a Gibbs one.
All right, let me play that one here. Let me get to it. The peanut butter jelly.
Because I think that fits your narrative as well. I think both of those do very well too.
Yeah, remember the Jahmyr show? We're gonna get to it. Don't worry, we're gonna get to it. All right, you guys. I was on the stand earlier. A lot of us are on the stand. All right, let's get to Dave Montgomery.
Damn, they're so successful. How can we take it to the next level?
Yeah, I definitely think what makes us, like peanut butter and jelly, and I guess you say what makes us work is like we're so different, but we're like very good in our own way. And it's hard for teams to prepare for us, but we got high expectations for ourselves, and both of us together, we didn't think that was good enough. So we want to be better this year, and we will.
How can you do that?
A lot of ways. A lot of those that I won't disclose, just because, it's for us to get better than no one else. But, yeah, there's definitely a ton of ways for us to get better, and we will.
Do those differences that you were just talking about help you guys help each other in any way?
Yeah, definitely, of course. Us being so different allows the things that Ja does well that I have to do, he coaches me on, and vice versa. So
interesting.
For those who just kind of forget that Dave Montgomery exists, I mean, he's here, and they're gonna have a similar workload, maybe a little edge to Jahmyr this year, but yeah, Dave Montgomery exists. There's not really much to add there for all the people thinking Jahmyr's gonna get 1,400 yards. But go ahead, guys.
All right. We ready for this?
Oh,
let's go back to what David Montgomery said. And let's go back to what I've said numerous times, where David Montgomery obviously exists. He's probably going to get 800-900 yards. When you talk about impacting this offense, David Montgomery's impact is going to be absolutely the same it was last year. David Montgomery's still going to be the bell cow. But Jahmyr Gibbs, considering what happened week 1 through 7, where they were really just kind of easing Jahmyr Gibbs in, and not to mention what he's going to be doing better this year, yes, is still going to be a 1,300-yard back. I absolutely believe that this backfield can go above 2,000 yards combined, and it's going to be swaying a little bit more with Jahmyr Gibbs, because Jahmyr Gibbs, again, is going to be a guy that is hard not to give the ball to. David Montgomery's a great running back. We all know what David Montgomery is, and he could potentially get better being in Ben Johnson year 2. But when you talk about production in this backfield, it is 1,000% going to be swayed more in Jahmyr Gibbs' favor than it was last year. So again, this is the best backfield in the NFL. But that does not mean that it's just going to be exactly what it was last year and a little bit more Jahmyr Gibbs. It's going to be, in my opinion, a little bit more significant than some people want to say, just because we love David Montgomery. Like, I love David Montgomery, but at the end of the day, Jahmyr Gibbs is the better running back.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to take a different approach than Klotzy. I was on Klotzy's side for the longest. I don't do this a lot, boys.
Here we go.
You don't hear these words come out of my mouth a lot. And the people, they say, Booner, I see the comments all the time. Booner, you're wrong. Booner, you're wrong. You talk too much. You're wrong. I'm taking it back. I was wrong on this one. When I said I think Jahmyr Gibbs, Klotzy, I agree with you. He is the better running back. At some points, though, you do have to be realistic, and we do have to be realistic when it comes to the NFL. And it's that, yeah, there's a lot of players who are better than other guys, but that doesn't always mean you're going to get the production and the carries. When you have a guy like D-Mott, and this isn't really me just saying like this is what's going to happen. This is D-Mott coming out today. This is David Montgomery coming out today and saying that this is still a split backfield. And the clip that we didn't play as well. No, hold on. The clip that we didn't play as well.
I'm letting you talk.
The clip that we didn't play as well was the clip of D-Mott saying that we want to stay split carries because we want to both play in all 17 games and we don't want to get hurt and we want to make sure that we're consistently healthy. Now, does that mean Jahmyr Gibbs still can do 1,300? Yeah, he can, because he could probably do it off the same amount of touches he had last year and maybe some more catches out of the backfield, maybe a little bit more of an increase. But was completely wrong with the fact that I said, hey, I think D-Mott's going to get some taken away from. No, D-Mott's going to get the same amount of carries as D-Mott gets. And you could tell that there's a very big emphasis in camp right now between Jahmyr Gibbs and D-Mott, and those two are in pretty good agreements that, hey, we want to be the 1-2 punch in the NFL where we'll split carries. We'll go half and half if we have to, because we both want to play in all 17 games and we don't want to be injured like last year. And if I want to throw this out there, David Montgomery consistently in this interview, when kept getting asked about, hey, what did you do this offseason to get better? What would you guys need to work on? Hey, what was your workout routine looking like? He just kept denying it, like being like, I'm not going to answer that. I think, remember that first video there, guys, about saying that Ben Johnson wants to be a lot faster and run the ball a lot more, but be faster? I think D-Mott, I could be wrong on this. I would love to know what his weight is right now. I think they might not have told him, but they had a conversation and they tried to say, hey, let's get you faster here. Let's get you a little quicker and faster here. Still D-Mott and be a bully, but do like that Chargers run, like how that was the best run in the NFL the entire season. Maybe they sat down with him and said, hey, let's get you a little closer to Jahmyr Gibbs and the speed and the quickness. And now we can really split carries. You guys can stay healthier. You don't have to sit there and bang the whole time. And now we're like, I think this is going to be a little bit more of an electric 1-2 punch than we think. That's what this told me. And I know it's only minicamp, but I do think that there's something to say here with what D-Mott said today. And I think, Klotz, I was with you 100%. I think there is something to say about what he said there.
Look, I get it. Like, you guys are correct. Like, David Montgomery is still going to get fed. But Jahmyr Gibbs, when you look at weeks 1 through 17, how much he played, still led the NFL in yards with 20-plus more or gained. And 20-plus yard gains or more in the NFL. He had the most. So when you factor that in, when he is doing that, he is going to be getting more of those because that's just natural with this offensive line and how he plays. That's going to take away from David Montgomery because you don't need him, because he's not saying the Lions don't need him as the offense, but in those situations, when Jahmyr Gibbs is running for 40 yards, you don't have to hand the ball off to David Montgomery 3 times to get those 40 yards because Jahmyr's getting it to you right now. And that's just one of those things that I think Jahmyr Gibbs, the game's going to slow down even more from this year. So again, he's going to be the more productive running back. That doesn't mean that David Montgomery's irrelevant. Like, it's still going to be the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. But when it comes down, when you look at the production and just who's the better player, it's going to be leaning in Jahmyr Gibbs' favor more than I think you guys are saying right now. And that's fine. You can say that. But I just think at the end of the year, it's going to be Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 5 running back in the NFL, and David Montgomery is a probably top 11 to 10 running back in the NFL. And that's a very possible thing, especially with the run-first offense.
If your argument is he'll do more with the touches he gets and he'll have an increase,
he's going to get more touches too. He's going to get more touches. There's no way that they just weeks 1, like, we were complaining weeks 1 through 7. Why is Jahmyr Gibbs not getting the ball? Lions fans, that's not the case this year. So think about what Jahmyr Gibbs was doing at the end of the year. He's now going to be doing that. And I'm not saying that, that means don't give David Montgomery, but that is naturally going to be taking touches out of David Montgomery's hands. Naturally.
I disagree. That's some of those Josh. All right. Maybe some of the Josh Reynolds catches, those targets go to Jahmyr Gibbs instead. Or instead of Sam Laporte, or instead of Amon-Ra St. Brown getting 13, 14 targets a game, maybe his goes to 10 or 11. And then you get Jahmyr Gibbs a couple more.
Just because I'm with the Wi-Fi issue, can one of you guys pull up Jahmyr Gibbs carries for the first 7 weeks?
Yes, I can. I can do that. So, and I will say this: they're not going to ease him along this year. So that point I do understand.
I don't disagree with the fact. Like
Yeah.
I said it when I spoke that I do think Jahmyr Gibbs adds, touches to his game. Like they've already mentioned that they're looking to get him more involved in the pass game. I think it might come in different ways than it was. Instead of taking carries away from D-Mont, it's going to be more so of how can we get Jahmyr Gibbs in the slot and get him open? How can we get more screens? How can we get him in different situations? That's where I think the touches come from. I don't think it's like, hey, let's take away 5 carries a game from D-Mont and give those touches to Jahmyr Gibbs.
But I think it'll be take 3 carries away from D-Mont over the course of the year. I'm sure there will be games where David Montgomery gets fed more than others. But when you just say per game basis, I'm sure David Montgomery is going to take 3 less carries, and Jahmyr Gibbs is probably going to get 2 more catches per game. So that's 5 more touches. And over the course of the season, that's going to add up. So that's what I'm saying. But in those 3 touches and in those 2 catches, Jahmyr Gibbs can do a lot of damage. Like in weeks 1 through obviously he started against the Falcons and he did pretty well that game. But again, you could see that the game was still very fast for him, but he held his own. And that was the first time he just got an NFL carry. So you give him 15
he got a lot of touches
a game, which
to start the season.
Well, the 7,
Booner,
he'll get more than 7 carries.
Yeah, but
8
like
against
17,
Lambeau.
26, 14.
But he also had
11.
9. He also had 7 catches in that Seattle game. So like he was getting a lot of catches to begin the year. But yeah, I get your point. Like 8 carries against Green Bay. I mean, they did blow the Packers out, but I get what you're saying. They're not going to ease them along. Like I understand. I do understand that point. And this is the point I think I'm trying to make. And I'll just explain this, okay? Because I get what you're saying, Lucas. I think, in terms of an increased carries, yeah, because they eased him along last year. He's going into a second year. They're not going to ease him along, and by default, it's going to take carries away from Montgomery. So you're right. He'll have more yards, but I don't think it'll be significant or it'll be like it'll still be a 60-40, maybe 55-45 backfield, in my opinion.
I think it'll be one of the conversations. Like I said, it'll be like Jahmyr Gibbs is in the conversation for an all-pro running back and David Montgomery is in the conversation for a Pro Bowl running back. Like David Montgomery is still going to have a very good season.
Me and you were on the same page. I mean, that's exactly where I'm
what do you think the carry share looks like?
I think at the end of the year, it'll probably be like a 60-40 backfield. Maybe early on, but again, favoring Gibbs. But I just maybe early on, it's like to your point, a 55-45. But by the end of the year, when it's playoff time, I think it's going to be a 60-40 backfield.
I think there's going to be a little change in touch. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get an increase in touches. It's not going to be by sitting here thinking that he's going to get 8 more touches a game. Like that's just not realistic. Like he's going to get more touches though, and this year he's going to take a step forward to where he's been in the league for a year. He has the talent. He has the ceiling. He knows what it takes and what he has to do, and he's going to go out there and make more product. He's going to be more productive with the touches that he does have. And Ben Johnson has been coaching him for a whole year now. He knows what the positions to put him in to be successful. You saw it down the stretch last year in the playoffs. So like I think we all agree on it. Like Adam said, like we're arguing semantics. Like we agree on the same thing. I think the only thing is it's like I think before Klotzy, me and you were really far on like the D-Mont is going to take a little step back, or like a couple weeks ago when we had the conversation. D-Mont coming out today saying that makes me feel like, hey, no, there's going to be no slowing down for D-Mont. He's going to have his carries. He's going to put the production up. They're going to find ways to get Gibbs more touches because that is your best. Like him and Amon-Ra, those are your best weapons. So you're going to find a way to get those guys more touches, whether it's taken away from I don't even want to say Laporta, but from those 3rd, 4th, 5th wide receivers and having Gibbs fill in those spots in those kind of plays getting called in. And I think that's where you find the production. And I think that's where Gibbs turns into that top 5 running back. But I don't see D-Mont being like, and this isn't D-Mont being, I'm saying I don't see them going away from D-Mont because you said it, Klotzy, D-Mont's a playmaker too. Like that's scary to have. And if you can keep those guys healthy for 17 games and find a way to manage that, that's such a big advantage all season long to have those 2 guys at that level.
Well, and real quick, just to close this off, if we're talking touches, I think it'll be 55-45 Jahmyr. But if we're talking running the football, I'm going to be honest, I think it's still going to be David Montgomery having more carries. And that's just my opinion. I think Jahmyr gets more touches. But I could be wrong on that, but we'll see. That's where we slightly disagree. Like I think David's still going to be the bell cow is aggressive because they share a backfield, but he'll have 16, 17 carries, and Jameer will have his like 12, 11, 12, 13, maybe, whatever it is. But he'll have like 5, 6 catches. So I think touches more.
What did D-Mont
That's
even
what I
have?
could see it
Can
being
we
early
check
on.
that?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Boone. What'd you say?
I just want to see that David Montgomery touches per game. Played in 14 games, had 219 carries. I just want to do that math.
Like, I think Jameer's receiving game, he can. There's another level he can take.
That's where I'm at too a little bit, because I do think they're like, and I've been pretty vocal that like I think there's a question mark at wide receiver 4, 5, 3 potentially with DPJ, to where it's hey, if you don't have a question mark in Jahmyr Gibbs, you know what he is, and Dan Campbell said it last week when he was in the press conference. Like, we're going to have to find ways to replace Josh Reynolds. And he even said, or no, it was Ben Johnson. He even said, even if that's giving Jahmyr Gibbs other touches. So that's what it comes down to. I think the side that I'm on is I don't want to sit here and say, hey, we're going to not run the ball with D-Mon as much anymore. He's going to go from 15 to 10 carries, because I think that's far off what's going to happen. I think he's still going to get his 15 carries a game. And I just think they're going to find a way for Gibbs to get more. Like, you'll see him both on the field a lot more than you did last year at the same time.
Well, another thing that David also talked about was Sione Vaki. And
Klotzy's gone. Klotzy, get back.
Well, we'll play this clip, and it's David praising Sione Vaki, and we're going to get to the Pride of Detroit takeaways, and they had a very detailed breakdown, and they were hyping up Vaki a little bit too, his what he can do in the passing game. So let's get to Dave Montgomery talking about Sione Vaki.
Oh yeah, he's special too. Yeah, he's special. Vaki, he goofy though. That's the part that y'all don't see. He's pretty quiet, but he's a funny guy. But he's super skillful. He can do a lot of the similar things between me and Josh. So it's good to kind of have him doing some of the things that he does, but us as a cumulative of a whole room, like, it's special.
There you go. I think he's obviously RB3, based on what I read today, and they what they drafted him to be. But you got to think his value as a guy who can play special teams and be one of your best special teamers. Like, he brings a lot of value. So that dude, no doubt in my mind, he's getting a spot on the roster. He's going to be your RB3.
Yeah, it sounds like too, like the articles that I read today, like I think he scored 2 touchdowns in practice today. I know we're going to go over a little bit more of a breakdown of all of the details of practice, but I'm pretty sure he had 2 touchdowns. Someone said that he had a catch in the end zone that was like a strong catch in coverage. So he seems like a playmaker, and like if you're already making those plays and it's getting like the media starting to know, and they're actually still the offense is going at you. I think that's like fair to say, hey, right now there's a battle for running back 3, like with Craig Reynolds. Maybe you would have sat there and say, hey, maybe we need to see Sione Vaki through training camp and preseason, and then we could talk about replacing Craig. I think like now it's, you just got an upgrade over Craig Reynolds instantly. And I love Craig, but you have a guy like Sione Vaki. We saw like his highlights in college, and Klotzy loves this guy. And like, he's just a playmaker. Like, one of the things I read today just said that he caught a ball in like open field and just took off, and like, you can't catch him. Like, he's just a playmaker.
Yeah, and I think what's even more important is I think he's a more explosive running back than Craig Reynolds. Again, this is not knocking Craig Reynolds, but you see Craig Reynolds making plays on special teams all the time. So if he's able to do it, I think a guy that was starting in the Pac-12 after he graduated high school, he took 2 years off of football, went to Utah, and was instantly first team all Pac-12 at safety. So he's going to be laying dudes out on special teams. And then Booner, the conversation we were having yesterday with like guys that can be back there making plays on that new kickoff, it's going to be Sione Vaki, in my opinion. I think this ideal fit, because you watch his film back at Utah, he was making incredible plays in the open field, and just he pulls away from guys. I know he runs like a 4.6 on the 40, but when you watch him, he is football fast, and he's a guy that I could easily see taking a kickoff or 2 to the crib this year.
I mean, I got 2 scores on special teams. It's I think Vaki gets one of them. So I got faith in what he can do with the ball in his hands. And there's a reason why they drafted him, special teams upside, but also his skill set. And again, I will wait, because we're going to get into it more later. I'm going to get to this Anzalone video, because he praised Jack Campbell, which I think, is great. And we're going to also get to what Jack did today, because he was a menace. And I have my little Jack Campbell prediction. I'll dive more into it later, but something that I do believe is he's going to be their best linebacker this year. That's something I do believe this season. So let's get to Anzalone. commenting on Jack Campbell. Here he is.
Guys sort of going into year 2 now. Jack, you just saw him make plays
Yeah.
today. Sort of growth have you seen from him?
Yeah. I mean, nothing drastic, but I think he's built off of what he did, the tail end of the year last year. I think he's obviously more comfortable with the play calls, and going into year 2, you're not as panicky as far as what do I do, and am I doing the right thing? You could play a little bit more of just football, and that's really, I think as a linebacker, that's the most important thing, is just be able to know what you're doing, like the back of your hand, and just flowing and getting in the game.
Do you sense his comfort?
Jack Campbell.
Man looks stoic up there.
Anzalone looks like Thor, dude. Like he's like what's the like those ancient like gods or whatever. Yeah, like a Greek god. It's wild. I wish I had that hair, and I wish I was just like.
Yeah, it's beautiful hair. I mean, it is a good player. I don't want to knock him when I say I just think Jack Campbell, year 1 to year 2, with everything he learned last year, and to this comment as well, J. Mommy Campbell did finish second in tackles, and you got to think that's with limited snaps. He's going to be an absolute tackling machine. And the thing that you didn't really get to see a lot of last year, because it's hard, especially a rookie linebacker who won the Buckets Award, by the way, best linebacker in college football. But him in coverage is something that was his strong suit coming out of college. And you didn't really get to see that last year. I think when the game starts slowing down, that dude's good for a couple picks a year. I mean, he can guard tight ends. He has that type of upside. So I think you're going to see really Jack Campbell on full display this year, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah, I've been all over the Jack Campbell thing. I think I came that one day. I'm looking for my notes right now, because I had notes a couple weeks ago and brought all the stats for Jack Campbell about taking that next jump. And I don't even think like for a guy like Alex Anzalone, I think he knows, and he mentioned it multiple times in this interview, like, hey, that's just the evolution of an NFL player that's really, really good, is he's going to continue to get better. And he kind of already has that feeling to where he has that kind of chip on his shoulder, and he's elite at what he does. He has the size, he had the intangibles, everything that comes with it. And he basically, if he would have played as many snaps as Anzo did last year, he would have probably led the team in tackles, essentially. Like, I remember we did the math a couple weeks ago, and he would have done that. And that's him playing out of position too, like playing Sam linebacker instead of playing the Mike. So like that wasn't even playing his true position. So I'm interested to see, because Anzo's been out the last couple of weeks. I'm interested to see in training camp how they kind of go about the Jack Campbell, Anzalone, Derek Barnes situation. Who's going to be where? Who's going to be? Obviously, Anzalone is going to have the green dot and still doing that, but I think Jack Campbell has the potential. I've said this multiple times, to be a Pro Bowl linebacker in the NFL starting this season. Like, I truly do think he can go out there and get 130, 140 tackles if he's in his right position, and dominate and kind of get a couple interceptions, get some sacks, and just be an absolute menace on the field. And that's not a bad thing for Anzo, guys. Like, that makes your linebacking room that much better and one of the best in the NFL. Like, it takes you from like what would you say, top 15 linebacking room, a core, maybe to top 7. Like, you instantly, if you have a Pro Bowler in Jack Campbell this year, like Anzo could have been a Pro Bowler last year if he didn't get hurt. Like, put that in perspective a little bit. So you have 2 guys that have that potential, and then a Derek Barnes is your third. I do think he takes that. And today we're going to go over what he did today in practice. He has been like the biggest standout out of everyone. Jack Campbell has. Are you there, Klotz?
I'm really excited to see, because I do agree with you guys that Jack Campbell is going to have more production, but I kind of feel how you guys do with David Montgomery with Alex Anzalone, just because he is such a formative part of this defense. He is one of the original guys that was brought in this rebuild, and he knows this defense like the back of his hand. And like he said, it's one of the most important things to have during that. So I just think when you bring in DJ Reader, it's almost like a running back getting a really good guard in front of him, because DJ Reader is going to be able to eat up these double teams, and that's going to help out Jack Campbell so much, especially if you're getting at the quarterback, making plays behind the line of scrimmage. Not only that, but it's going to help him out in coverage too. So Jack Campbell, he is set up for, like you guys would say, have that Pro Bowl caliber type of year.
Yeah, and that's a thing where it's tough, because I do respect Anzalone. I think he's, speaking of a cover linebacker, he improved significantly. And Anzalone's kind of a do-it-all guy, but Jack Campbell, he showed a lot too, being great against the run. You know, and I think the coverage stuff, it's not really what he was asked to do, but I think there's a lot of upside there. I mean, just go watch his tape at Iowa. He was all over the place. I mean, he tested athletically off the charts. So his sideline to sideline ability is incredible. And we know what he can do tackling players as well. I mean, the guy's a tackling machine. So yeah, I'm excited. And he's so lucky to have a guy like Anzalone. That's just so another guy who's selfless. And to your point, Lucas, improved defensive line. Yeah, I mean, that's going to help too.
You know what?
When you have guys that can get to the quarterback, it makes things a lot easier.
Do you know what we haven't mentioned yet? And actually, in a little while, Klotz is going to like this. Is like you're sitting there, you're working with Alex Anzalone all day and through the whole offseason and now through training camp, and also you're working with Kelvin Shepard, one of the best in the league at his job. So like he's in such a good spot, and now being like a whole year into this, there were times last year that Alex Anzalone, and then I think a lot of people for a little bit. It was kind of like that Derek Barnes missed sack or missed safety in the Dallas game, to where Derek Barnes was having a decent season, not a great one, but like he was holding his own and he was giving you what you needed, and then he missed that sack in the end zone to force a safety in Dallas, and then everyone was like, "Oh, this guy sucks. Like he should never be a linebacker again for the Lions." And then he had the interception to go to the NFC Championship game, and then I think people's perspective for a little bit with Jack Campbell is he missed a couple tackles early in the season, and everyone's like, "Oh, what happened? Like, what's going on with him? Like, that's your first round pick." You have to let a guy like that kind of just learn, because to your point, Jeff, like in college, he was one of the best coverage guys. Like he has every single intangible that you need out of a linebacker. He has the size, like he has everything. Like don't let last year, especially early last year when he's playing out of position, determine what like he is to you. Like you can't do that. You cannot let that kind of make your decision on Jack Campbell.
Well, let's get to Reisman and Pride of Detroit. Their notes on what happened today at minicamp. Obviously, we were not there, so we rely on our great local media to cover it for us, and then we kind of translate it, give our thoughts, and we have the audience here to tune in as well. So let's get to it. The first part of the article, by the way, this is PrideOfDetroit.com. They do a great job. The first thing they mention here is Brandon Joseph intercepting Jared Goff in his pass intended for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I believe this is Jeremy. I want to make sure I'm right. Yeah, it is Jeremy. Okay. During an 11-11 red zone drill, Goff stared down St. Brown and didn't see safety Brandon Joseph dropping his own coverage. The ball was thrown right at Joseph, who continues to work with the first team defense due to injuries. Great reps for him, by the way. Campbell noted before practice that Joseph saw significant improvement during the season last year. Quote, there was a comfort level by the end of the year, like, man, this guy we think could probably go in there and hold his own a little bit, Campbell said. So that's a good sign. There has been noticeable growth from him last year. I will tell you, even in this spring, he's improved. It wasn't a perfect day from Joseph. On one 7-on-7 red zone rep, he tried to jump a route from Khalif Raymond on the outside, but Goff threw Raymond inside for an easy touchdown. By the way, real quick, no free ads, by the way. Got to take that off. But Khalif Raymond making some plays. All right, Mr. Khalif. People forget about him. All right, he's
2 touchdowns today.
Yeah, Khalif. I think him and DPJ are fine. They're going to be able to fill that role. But Brandon Joseph, I think that storyline is going to be exciting. I do. Let's keep it moving because we already kind of talked about it. But Jared Goff throwing a pick. I'm not going to sit here and break that down. I mean, it's minicamp. Let's keep it going. Hendon Hooker, pick sixed by Khalil Dorsey. Okay, who wrote this? During a situational drill where the offense started on its own 1-yard line, Hooker's drive lasted just 2 plays. Greg Reynolds bounced a run outside for 5 yards, and Hooker tried to hit Darius Fontaine on a quick pass, but Dorsey jumped the route for a relatively easy pick 6. It was another tough day for Hooker. He dealt with both accuracy issues and was consistently taking simulated sacks after holding the ball too long. That said, he did finish the day strong, scoring touchdowns on 2 of 4 7-on-7 red zone attempts to finish practice on a couple of nice throws to Maurice Alexander and Donovan Peoples-Jones, who had beaten CJ more handedly. So, hey, he he finished the day more confident.
Strong.
I think there's something else in this article too that said Dan Campbell like was yelling at Hendon Hooker for holding the ball too long, and he took a sack. I don't know if that was in that paragraph. I might have zoned out, or if it's in a later paragraph.
Probably.
But there's a report that said Dan Campbell at one point was yelling, like scolding, I think was the word maybe that was used, Hendon Hooker, because he kept taking a sack instead of throwing the ball away, and he was just holding the ball too long. That seems to be I know that doesn't fit your narrative, Jeff. I know you have a narrative out for Hendon Hooker, but still young, learning, up-and-coming quarterback.
This again, we can't be too surprised by him struggling. If he walked out there and was just absolutely lighting up minicamp OTAs, we'd be like, whoa, they might have a guy who could easily start for any other team. Like, he's obviously, dude, it's going to take some time, for him to develop, to be ready, to be the backup for Jared Goff. So, and that's coaching, man. I mean, hell, Dan Campbell, chew his ass out. That's what he needs.
That's how you learn.
That. And holding the ball, I think that's like in his head, I think, from Tennessee, because he's constantly holding the ball to make plays. And in the NFL, it's like, nah, dude, if a play's not there, you throw the ball away. Like, you can't just,
especially in OTAs when there's no real chance of you getting hit. Like, you're not going to be as locked in as you would be if you have the chance of somebody, even in preseason games, the chance of you getting hurt, you having to get a play, make a play, whatever. Just the decision making is not going to be as quick.
Yeah. Like, I know people are like, I told you he stinks. It's like, well, okay, let's relax a little bit.
There's going to be it's going to take time for him. There is a transition. He hasn't played football 1 and 2 seasons, like live football in 2 years basically, and now he's just playing in the NFL instantly, where you have to have that like transition to learning, and it's tough.
I'm going to wait till training camp to really get. We'll see. We'll see with preseason. If he still looks terrible, you're like, oh.
And again, there's no conversation. I'll make this very, very, very clear too. There's no conversation. There's no quarterback battle when it comes to Hendon Hooker and Jared Goff. That is not a thing.
No,
this is essentially is we're sitting here. No matter, even if Hendon Hooker looks good in a preseason game, it's okay. We have a good backup. Like, that's the conversation. Like, we're sitting here hoping that he develops and gets better before the season starts, so you have a good backup behind Jared Goff. There is zero conversation about who's going to be the starting coach. Like, that battle isn't coming for a long, long time.
He's competing with Nate Sudfeld. I mean,
and in Allen W., he said, I hope he lights it up. If he lights it up in the preseason, guess what? Yeah. That means we have a great backup quarterback in the NFL for the Super Bowl run. That's a good thing.
Some would say the Patrick Mahomes.
No, that's a great backup.
The Tom Brady behind Drew Bledsoe.
Yeah, that's how some people. I mean, I'm not that bad. I'm not going there.
I've heard it. I just want to.
All right, let's keep it pushing. Here's Jack Campbell getting some love. The headline is Interception 3. Jack Campbell ends situational drill with a tip drill pick. The Lions offense is moving down the field after being put in a tough situation, down 4 points with 47 seconds left. Starting at their own 20-yard line with no timeouts. In short, they had to go 80 yards in 47 seconds. Amon-Ra St. Brown kicked off the drive with a solid 15-yard gain. That also stopped the clock by getting out of bounds. Then Sam Laporta picked up back-to-back receptions for 33 yards. This is a great article, by the way, in detail.
They broke it down great.
Yeah.
Shout out to them for this.
33 yards total to set the Lions just 32 yards away with 17 seconds left. Jack Campbell was beat. I feel like I'm there. Jack Campbell was beat thoroughly on the second Laporta reception, but he made amends on the next play by nabbing an interception. I couldn't see who tipped the pass to the line of scrimmage, but the ball jumped high into the air in a group of about 5 players. Campbell wrestled the ball away and made an athletic grab to end the drill. So that goes back to what we just said about the D-line, right? Yeah. Like making plays at the line of scrimmage. I don't know who tipped it. I wish someone would have saw it, because
probably Broderick Martin. I don't know.
Definitely wasn't Isaiah Buggs.
Broderick Martin. Yeah, definitely not. He is not in Allen Park.
Yeah. Some would say, well, never mind. I don't even want to go there.
He's at a hookah lounge right now.
Yeah, that's a whole nother situation. But
no, I think it's big time. This is the defense, guys. Boys, what do I say before pregame shows during the season? We've done a million pregame shows together. Jeff, I've done them with you for like 3 years now. What is my number one thing on a pregame show?
Win the turnover battle.
Win the turnover battle. You win the turnover battle, and you have a positive turnover differential in the NFL in a season, you will have a really good chance of winning a Super Bowl if you have a good football team.
Yeah,
this is what I'm talking about here, boys. Defense, turnovers. This is what we love to hear.
It's
I don't
death,
even-
taxes, and Booner yelling, "Win the turnover battle on Sunday." That's like
Win the
three.
turnover battle.
Yeah,
And Booner path.
it's
The
like
Booner
the
path
three
and win the
plays.
turnover battle. Booner, what are your threes to the game? Keys to the game.
Yeah,
Turnover,
no, we
turnover,
always
turnover.
agreed. I mean, that's turnovers aside, games in the NFL. Let's see, Alan W. Is Davenport seriously hurt again? He's never beaten the injury-prone allegations.
Yeah, he did not practice, and he was seen working with the trainers during camp today. So he didn't practice during OTAs as well. I think it was the same thing. I think he's just been some sort of injury.
What happened? I
Couldn't
Tied
tell
his
you.
shoe wrong.
Couldn't tell you. That's why I had the conversation with you guys yesterday. Like, let's stop having this Davenport conversation and let's start kind of planning on who's behind Davenport. Like, who, what's the depth? Where are we at with that? That's why I'm like, I moved on from it. I'm over sitting here talking about that.
Tyler says Magic Johnson had an HIV positive turnover battle.
Oh, that's for sure. That man's he's lasted the test of time with that thing. I mean, that's second to none.
I have no
he
comment.
has. Yeah,
I
he
think
has.
maybe that was I heard it on the internet the other day.
Hey, it's like
actually.
the South Park episode, just injecting money. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard maybe there was something with I'm not one to be known as a conspiracy guy, but I heard maybe there was something with conspiracies of the government trying to similar, I don't know. I'm not going to throw something. I'm just throwing out there what I read online, dude, on Twitter. X.
It's on Twitter. It should be real. It could be real. That's how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really into that stuff. I just saw something I tweet on X, and I was like, "Oh, this is an interesting thought." Conspiracy.
Jeez, some of these comments. That guy up north, Davenport, didn't see Doc when he walked off stage after intro press conference, tripped right over him. Doc, man, shout out Doc. I love John, man. We can't wait to get him on tomorrow. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot. We got a lot to get through with Doc. Like, we have a lot of content, so that'll be a lot of fun. All right, the next part of the article, they mentioned Jack Campbell, making some plays, another highlight. Campbell closes a dominant red zone drill for defense during the final set of red zone drills for the first teamers, all starting inside the 10-yard line. It was an absolute bloodbath for the defense. Goff went 0 for 4 with an interception. Jesus. Carlton Davis blanketed Antoine Green. He was for an incompletion. Ifitu Melifonwu had sticky coverage on Laporta to force another incompletion, and Goff couldn't find Fontana's other attempt. Much like his first interception of the day, Goff intended to hit St. Brown, but didn't see Campbell sitting in the zone. St. Brown was initially open, but after hesitating, Goff waited until St. Brown crossed over into Campbell's zone, where he was able to easily pick off the pass right at his hands. Early in practice, Campbell also showed nice anticipation, lightly colliding with Laporta on a grab during a 3rd and 22 situational drill. The Lions tight end was stopped 13 yards short, forcing a punt, and it's possible he would have jarred the ball loose if at full speed because he arrived just as the ball was getting there. He also notched a pressure/sack in an earlier drill. Campbell got most of the first team reps at the Mike position with Anzalone back at the will. That's key. Derek Barnes still got some time with the first team, but mostly in 3 linebacker sets. Anzalone noted that he sees a level of comfort in Campbell's game. I think he's built off what he did the tail end of last year. I think he obviously is more comfortable with the play calls, Anzalone said after practice. So, hey, Campbell just had a day. He was all over the place today. And they were that defense. This is great. This is a top 5 offense. And I know Fontaine was out there, and take it for what you will. And Antoine Green was blanketed by Carlton Davis. Like, that's not even fair. But just to give you just a very, very light takeaway, because it's early, defense making some plays, boys. Defense making some plays.
Yeah.
That's the headlines, is the defense. I don't even think – all right, actually, I text you guys this today. Is there something to be said? Like, I do think it's the defense that's gotten a lot better, and the secondary a lot better. Is there something with this that comes with, like, you're like the Fontaine, and you're reading, like, some of these names like Maurice Alexander out there getting reps with the first team? Is that, like, this wide receiver, like the depth? Remember, I know this, like, kind of fits the narrative that I talked about a month ago. Is that kind of a question a little bit? I know it's only minicamp, but, like, is that a conversation that we're going to have a little bit? Like, yeah, the secondary is great, but do you just not have the wide receivers out there making the plays? Because the only people making plays is Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Khalif Raymond that we're getting reports of. And it's those 3 guys that you knew were going to make plays. But like, did DPJ not practice today? Why is Maurice Alexander running with the ones? Why is Maurice Fontaine running with the ones?
Well, they do that just in general. They move a lot of guys around, like Antoine Green running with the ones. They just put guys in positions.
All right, this is a question I had to ask. I had to bring it up.
Real quick, they did that. Just a note before you go, Lucas. They did that during OTAs with the corners. They had Vildor at CB2, and they were interchanging Carlton at CB1 and Terrion. So it's not like, is Kendall Vildor going to start? It's just
it was just an interesting thought that first popped in my head. Like, yeah, obviously the defense that's the storyline is you upgraded your secondary and they're dominating. But to me, it was like, all right, this is supposed to be one of the best offenses in the league, and like those are the names that we're hearing, and they're the ones that are getting picked off on. So that was the interesting part to me.
No, I was just going to say that's pretty much what Jeff said. That's how you get looks from guys. Like if Antoine Green's making plays on Carlton Davis, you're like, oh, okay, now let's put him against him again. If he continues to do it, then that's when you know, all right, he's ready probably to pick it up to actual game speed, and we can put him in that number 4, that number 3 spot. But I just think another thing to take away is just like not to get too ingrained in just day one of these training camps and day one of these OTAs. Like, yeah, these guys are going to be having good days, but yet again, like when the ball is snapped week 1, it's a completely different situation, and it's a different mindset for all these players. So yes, I'm happy to see that these plays are being made, but I'm not taking too much out of it.
Yeah, I agree. You can't overreact to some of this stuff. It's more just, like I said, you just do like you note it. Like, okay, this guy's making some plays. Note it. By the way, Easy says, who wrote that? This is Jeremy Reisman, Pride of Detroit. He covered everything in this article. He also had a section of this.
Just keep an eye on that, though, guys. I want, when training camp comes around, let's keep an eye on that.
Let's get to other notes from practice. Okay, so it writes here, strong day from Khalif Raymond, who had a string of red zone reps where he scored 3 touchdowns in 4 plays, 2 from Goff, 1 from Hooker. Jesus. His best route was a wheel-like route in which he left Brandon Joseph at least a couple yards in the dust. Khalif Raymond, man, he's sneaky good route runner. I'm telling you, sneaky good route
quietly.
runner.
Yeah. Quietly.
He had the most yards per separation against man coverage last year.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget about him. Him or DPJ. Someone's going to fill Josh Reynolds. I ain't worried about it. Nate Sudfeld didn't get a single team rep until the final sets at 7-on-7s. Hooker continues to get most of the second and third team reps as they really focus on his development. Another impressive play from Caden Davis, who made a toe-tapping touchdown grab during a red zone drill, although Chris Spielman did not think he got both feet down, waving his hands incomplete under the goalpost. I like how Chris Spielman's just hanging out.
Nope.
Yeah, count. Like, I love that.
Run it back.
He's just over
Imagine
there.
being Caden Davis, just being, come on, man. Like, come on.
What are you going to say?
Hell no. He didn't have his feet in.
Oh, that bottom one there. Interesting.
Well, hold on.
Oh, yeah. Let's read about the Levi news for sure.
So the only special teams drills the Lions worked on Tuesday were punts. Notably, it was Jalen Reeves-Maybin who stepped on in the personal protector role. CJ Moore was blocking on the edge of the line. Punt returners in order, I saw them were Khalif Raymond, Maurice Alexander, Jalen Calhoun, Tom Kennedy, Isaiah Williams, and Jameson Williams. Boone. Jameson Williams out there returning some punts. Again, Boone, you were in the – wait, what?
I just said I told you guys to keep an eye on it. I did. Whether it's right or wrong, don't be shocked.
Yeah, that is fair. Even though we disagree with it, they're still doing it, and that's fair. We'll keep going here because this is the huge this part right here. A strong start to practice from Levi Onwuzurike, who tallied 2 sacks / pressures early on the day. On the second one, he came barreling into the backfield with little control over his body and nearly crashed into Hooker's legs. But the quarterback was able to sidestep the pressure. Scary moment.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for like.
He was barreling down the quarterback.
Better watch your ass, Levi. Better watch where you're taking. Listen, play well. I support you, but don't you get Hooker hurt. That man just spent an entire fucking year coming back from an ACL injury. I'll be damned if you take him out on your way out.
That would be one of the more wild storylines.
I don't want no problems, by the way. He's a big man. I don't want no problems. I'm only doing this over the internet. But don't but watch out. Do not take out Hendon Hooker. Okay, boys. Sorry, I just had to make that just very clear.
No, that just
That's
that
scary. I don't want
storyline.
Hendon Hooker tearing another ACL before the
Yeah,
damn
if that popped up,
game
Levi
begins.
Onwuzurike off balance falls onto Hendon Hooker's leg and minicamp with no pads, just kind of stumbles.
That's an injury for sure. It doesn't even have to be Hendon Hooker. You put
yeah.
you put Levi Onwuzurike rolling into your knee, the season's over. The season is over.
Yeah, before it began. It's over. It's over. But Levi? Hey, Levi?
Get loose out there. Get loose out there in OTAs, baby. Yeah.
This is one of the ones that don't put too much into this.
Yeah, the Lucas.
Like there's some things I think, like, I know a lot of people are like, let's not look at the OTAs and mini camps. Like, I think there's conversations that can be had, like, with certain people. There's just some to where it's like, yeah, we don't need to take anything out of this until we see it. Like Levi, if this was his rookie year and we're like, oh, he's out there having a good practice. Okay. I mean, this man's had his chances. The only way he can prove it is like week one.
If Levi Onwuzurike was coming down the A gap and I'm a quarterback, I'd still be shitting myself. All I got to do is hit it's over with. It's over with. That's a wrap after that.
Yeah.
Cute story, but
yeah, I mean, watch yourself, Levi. Watch yourself. All right, let's be careful here. All right, I'm very proud. Hey, showing improvement. That's awesome, but you don't need to take out the backup here. We don't want Nate Sudfeld potentially ever seeing the field. All right, so let's relax here.
That's for damn sure.
All right.
Oh my God.
Also writes here with Sione Vaki. Jeremy wrote, Sione Vaki continues to shine as a receiver, taking a screen for a touchdown and making a tough adjustment touchdown catch while falling to the ground. I think he has a long way to go to earn any sort of significant role on offense, but I'm not counting him out to potentially challenge for the RB3 role sooner than later over Craig Reynolds, which it's not much to add. We all agree there. I think we think he's RB3. Dude's a stud. But the receiving thing is impressive. He might even be seeing some snaps out there as a pass catcher. But they also write here, just so we don't take it for granted, St. Brown remains the focal point of the offense and a dominant player. He scored touchdowns on back-to-back red zone drills. In the first, he perfectly found the soft spot in the zone between Campbell and Anzalone for the score. On the second, he was wide open after a miscommunication between Melifonwu and Davis. So, I mean, this guy's
Ross St. Brown, back-to-back all-pro seasons.
There's not much to even be like.
Yeah.
It's like varsity.
Sione Vaki, though, the only question I have with that, it's like if he's like his primary, as a receiver, but catching the ball in the backfield, making plays like that, I'm interested to see like his ground game compared to like Craig Reynolds. Like, is that trustworthy? Like, obviously going from college to the NFL, like, what does his size look like? Like, is he going to be able to kind of go between, like, say, remember last year when Craig had to step in for a few games, like that Bucks game, and he had to get some carries? Like, is that someone as Sione Vaki, a guy to where you still keep Craig as that RB4? And like, are you trusting Craig more so in those, like, getting those carries, and Sione Vaki in those different kind of scenarios, catching the ball and playmaking and screens and, short slant route, things like that. That's kind of my, like, I would like to see that a little bit, see where he's at with that.
I wouldn't be surprised just because how they like having that 1-2 punch as the starters if they still keep Craig around, but Vaki's still the running back 3, just because Craig is a good special teams player. And I mean, between the tackles, Craig without a doubt is going to be the better running back. But as far as breakaway plays outside the tackles on like zone runs and stuff like that, you're going to go with Vaki every time. But it's definitely a good idea, I think, to keep both those guys around.
I wonder if Sione can get between the tackles, like, eventually.
He can, but I mean, he was not that he couldn't do it in college, but he wasn't getting consistent looks in college running between the tackles. So for him to be expected to do in the NFL, I think there'd have to be like, it's a rep thing.
That is one of those things to remember how when they did draft him, we had that conversation, Klotzy, like that first day initially, where I was saying how Dan or Brad came out and said that he looks at him like, get him in the running back room right away. And like, now that he can get all these reps and just being a running back, and like, just put all of your mind towards being a running back. We don't care about safety. We don't care about anything else. Just go out there in the running back room and focus on that, which he's never done in his career. Maybe he ends up turning into something even like way better than Craig Reynolds because he's able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for Sione Vaki to be just kind of a do-it-all guy and to come out and just make plays. I am impressed. I wasn't sure how early he'd be showing out, but Klotzy, you were very high on this man as soon as he was drafted.
I like Vaki. I'm a Vaki fan.
I think you were high on him as soon as he was drafted. You were like,
right away.
Like, guys, watch the tape. And I'm like, who is what? And then I watched it. I'm like, holy shit, this guy can make plays. So yeah, I don't. Klotzy might be right. They might have a little something with Vaki. He might be more.
I like
my takeaway when he was drafted, I'm like, okay, solid special teamer. That's it. Like, but he's a weapon, dude. He's a weapon.
He's not going to be anybody that's like cutting into David or Jameer's workload, but I think he's somebody that you can have some faith in making plays if there's a week or two that one of those guys go down, especially Jameer. I think if you put David and Craig as a backfield, it's less dynamic as David and Vaki. You know what I mean? And you give David the 20 carries if you want to, but you can give Vaki 5 carries and 5 catches.
There were times last year where David and Jameer were both healthy, and they still said, "Hey, we like." Ben's spoke on that. Like if Craig Reynolds is hot, like we can't we have Jameer and David, but if Craig's hot, let's run the hot hand. Like you might see Vaki in that spot to where like even if those guys are healthy, he gets out there, makes a play. Let's get him a couple more opportunities here. I would not be shocked if that happens at some point.
Fellas, before we get to mailbag in about 8 minutes, I see here on the prep a couple things that transpired in the NFL. What's going on, Boone? Break it down for us. We need a Booner bomb. What's going on with Jordan Love? Potentially a contract incoming? What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess Goons to Goons. We love him on this show. Shout out Brian Goons to Goons. He was asked on a radio show today, and they mentioned, they asked about the Jordan Love contract, and they said the conversations are being had at the moment. Like as we are sitting here right now, there are conversations being had. Before training camp, there will be a Jordan Love deal done. I put on my Twitter. I think maybe I'm wrong. I'm interested to see what happens if this deal comes out. I think what's going to happen is Jordan Love gets the same deal as Jared Goff, if not even more. Like I think it might end up exceeding Jared Goff's deal because of what they think Jordan Love's ceiling is and how young he is and everything with it and what he saw in the second half of the season. So I'm interested in. I don't know where you guys are at with that. I do think though that there will be a deal done. Like Goons to Goons confirmed, deal will be done before training camp comes within the next whatever it is month and a half now. I'm just interested to see what this final deal comes up because if he ends up being more than Jared Goff, I think that's when you could start looking at the Brad Holmes and saying, all right, Brad probably did a really good job on this contract because he set that kind of mid-level market to where teams it's like the Tua thing. Tua's asking for more money. He already declined one of his contract offers.
Oh, he's going to get it.
Yeah, and it's because he wants more than Jared Goff. It's the same thing with Amon-Ra. Amon-Ra went out there and got $30 million, and now everyone's like, I want 35, I want 32, I want 33. And like Tua now, I want more than Jared Goff. Jordan Love, I want more than Jared Goff.
Yep.
All these quarterbacks are going to be doing the same thing now, which is going to make Brad Holmes look very, very nice.
They better re-sign Love now because if they wait till the end of the year and he has another season like last year, that man's going to be commanding like
if Tua gets signed and then he waits.
He's going to be commanding 60. So they better just re-sign that man now and hope that it wasn't a mirage last year. But I think it's something that they should just do to the points that I just said. Build around them. You know what you're working with. They're in a very similar situation as the Lions as far as a lot of their young core is still on rookie contracts. So it's something they can afford to do at this point.
Yeah, Tua. You guys see Tua? He looks skinny.
He lost a ton of weight. Tyreek Hill made a joke, said he looked like he was on Ozempic or whatever it's called. That's how much weight he lost. No.
Even if a teammate, it's one thing if like you have pictures and social media saying something, but like you have Tyreek Hill saying the making the Ozempic joke. Like it's not just Rick Ross down there in Florida, Miami is taking Ozempic. Like you got potentially Tua, who honestly he was already small, but that's a concerning dude. He's gonna get that's.
Especially with his injury past, man. If I was Minnesota, or if I was Miami, I would have went and got Sam Darnold because if you're not re-signing Tua, I'm sorry. I think there is not a lot because Tua is one of the more accurate quarterbacks, but there's probably top half of the league of the quarterbacks to go in there and produce the amount of wins that Tua has done for the Miami Dolphins. I mean, he has not won a playoff game yet. And you look at the receiving core, I know their defense fell apart towards the end of the year last year, but even the years prior, Tua, in my opinion, has nowhere even sniffing Goff or Jordan Love money, because Jordan Love in year one, look what he did compared to Tua. Man, it's Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and Moser and A-Chain.
Mike McDaniel. I mean,
it's really weird too that he did lose the weight, because like a year ago he almost had to retire from the NFL from getting hit. And now maybe obviously getting hit in the head has nothing to do with how big you are, but like, dude, you have to be able to take hits in the NFL. And he's a guy to where he adjusted his game a lot. It felt like when he came back, he adjusted to where he's like, he's not going to scramble as much. He's going to go down when he's about to get hit. Like him coming back to the NFL after that major injury, it was like, you got to play smart now. And that was kind of how we played the last couple of years. And now it's like, okay, now he wants to lose all this weight to be more mobile, to where now he's going to take more hits when he almost had to retire from the NFL for taking hits 2 years ago. Like, it's really weird. I'm interested to see kind of what I would like to hear what like his camp had to say this offseason, sitting down and being like, hey, you should drop a bunch of weight, man. Like that would really help your game. And I'm interested. You're in the NFL, like being that small isn't always a good thing.
No, at that quarterback. No, it's okay to have a little dad bod. You don't want to be, you don't want to be
Mahomes. You see Mahomes?
Yeah, Mahomes isn't losing weight. That
Mahomes got a little barrel going on. Not gonna lie, the boy's got a little tummy.
His comments too. He was like, I've had the dad bod since I was at Texas Tech. I really don't care. I'm just here to play football. Like he's like one of the greatest ever. Tom Brady played with the dad bod for the longest time.
But even Tom, I mean, yeah, it's weird. It's like post-career Tom. I mean, late in his career, Tom, he lost a lot of weight, but now he's gotten like plastic surgery and everything. Now he's just like doesn't even look the same.
Lamar just did it too. Lamar just came back and I think he lost like 20 or 30 pounds.
That's concerning.
You take a hit and now, like, welcome to the new, like, dude, you're gonna take a hit.
Welcome to the league, pal.
Yeah. Well, like the reason I say that is because it's like a new Lamar. It's like you lost 30 pounds. It's a new Lamar. Welcome to the league, new Lamar.
Patrick Queen isn't on your team anymore. He's playing for the Steelers twice a year, and he knows how you move. So it's just one of those things where it's like, whew.
Yeah, you don't want those problems. And apparently the Cowboys, they want problems with CD because they haven't extended him, and he's not attending OTAs or minicamp. He's just saying, I'm good. Just send me the check. Just send me the contract in the mail. I'll sign it, and then I'll be there. And now he's seeing guys like, Ahmed Ra get paid. He's going to want his money. Want and also Aiyuk. Aiyuk is they're both not at mandatory minicamp. So two guys that want to get paid. Aiyuk, I think he's going to be very disappointed. I think CD will get paid, but Aiyuk is sitting there going, great. I don't follow Aiyuk on social media. I'm sure he has a cryptic something. So he probably
he's put a couple quick cryptic things up already. The weird thing with Aiyuk is I'm pretty sure I'm 90% sure that there's a 5th-year option for him. So like he can miss all these anyways, and I think they can just opt in and make him play this year. Like I think it's just a thing to where it's like, yeah, you can miss these camps, but we have a 5th-year option. We opt in and you're playing for us this year. And then we can make that decision. Like the 49ers could be like, hey, we can make that decision with Debo and you at the end of next year. So it's a weird, like him sitting out, I guess, like maybe if there's a deal that's about to get done, but doesn't make that much sense anyways. Like for the 49ers, I would just be like, all right, like you're going to get fined for sitting out anyways. And you're going to have to show up no matter what, because we're going to opt into your 5th-year option. So like you be here, like you're going to have to play for us. So it's either you miss a year and you hurt yourself because you're not going to get a contract if you don't play. Like
go the Le'Veon Bell route.
He just has no leverage whatsoever, because if let's say he just were to hold out the whole season, they still have a very solid wide receiver trio with Debo, Ricky Pearsall, and Juwan Jennings. Oh, and they have George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey to go with as well.
Juwan Jennings too.
So it's just you could do a Debo or Brandon, but there's no chance that he gets signed the money that he wants in San Francisco. They can't afford to do it.
If I'm him, I just go out there and do what you did last year, and it's not probably hard for him in that offense to duplicate what he did. Go out there. Go out and put up another 1,000+ yards, dominate again, don't complain, and move on next year. Be a free agent and go pick where you want to play and sign a big deal like that. And you're probably going to make more money next year because the market's going to go up a little bit more. Like that's just the cap will go up more. So just go play football.
Well, let's get to mailbag. We got some things I did want to bring up. Braylon, shout out to him for the $2 earlier. Says Niners, revenge. We know what Braylon thinks. He'd rather beat the 49ers. Appreciate the $2, Braylon. We appreciate you always being here as well. Mike Reed gifted 5 Crunch Time memberships to the people. Mike Reed.
Mike.
Shout out to you, Mike Reed. We appreciate you.
What a legend.
And people do as well. Phil will start us off with Mailbag. He says, Mailbag, with Lions buy a real backup or depend on crippled hooker? Depend on a crippled hooker. That's a wild second statement. But
Yeah.
I will I will say I don't think they bring in a backup. I think they're going to roll with Sudfeld and Hendon Hooker. I think the only way they bring in a backup, A, is if Hendon Hooker gets injured and Sudfeld stinks, or B, Hendon Hooker just looks so bad that they're like, this guy stinks, and they bring in somebody else. That's the only way.
David Blau off the streets. Bring him back.
No.
Bring him home.
He's coaching now.
But I would say no. They're going to roll with who they
He's
have,
coaching.
unfortunately or fortunately, however you believe.
I think depending on what happens with Hooker, like in training camp and in preseason, I think you're always going to keep Hooker. But if you don't feel comfortable with either of the two, I wouldn't be shocked. Like after training camp's done and preseason goes through, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks that get cut. I'm trying to pull up here real quick. That Broncos quarterback room.
Oh
Who's in
God,
that?
it's Drew Lock,
Bo Nix and Zach Wilson. No, not Drew Lock. Jarrett Stidham.
Bo Nix.
Drew
my
Lock's
bad.
over in New York now. So like there's going to be guys that end up getting cut to where it's like if you don't feel comfortable with one of those guys, like you can always. I'm not going to sit here and be like, don't do it.
Yeah, Jared Stidham. Jeez.
I saw a tweet today that said
Oh,
Zach
Payne loves
Wilson's taking all the number one reps in Denver right now.
I believe it.
Over
I
Bo
believe
Nix.
it. I believe it. Hey, Drew Lock in New York. I could see him. Daniel Jones struggles. It's the Drew Lock and Malik Neighbors show.
Oh,
You got Jeezy playing in MetLife.
Oh, here we go.
Mhm.
Yeah, and Clayton
Booner would
Tune's
love
going to
that.
start 17 games next year. Oh yeah, geez. Oh yeah, I would be all in on that.
That's who. If Hendon's kind of suspect, Brad, get on the phone. Bring
No.
that woman from Arizona. Bring Clayton Tune home. Where he
Stop.
belongs. Yeah,
Clayton.
he's like Taylor Heineke-esque.
You're like, you better hope that
Conversion this year. 2-point conversion.
Whoa.
Saw
Kyler
some
goes,
action.
Kyler goes down. Here comes
2-point
Clayton
conversion
off
with
the bench.
Kyler Murray hurt the whole
Problem.
season. And that's
Uh,
all he got.
That guy up north, Mailbag. My question was too deep for the heavies earlier. I'll try you guys. What's one position would you guys target after camp cuts to put the final touch on this year's roster? What do you guys think? One position to put the
Defensive
final
edge.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard not I feel like there's an obvious one. If you're not going to say that, then I'd probably go wide receiver. I would love to see another not a T Higgins, but we've had this conversation numerous times, but I feel like it has to be edge.
I think it's edge, and then if you don't find an edge, or say it's two different positions, and say they pick up two guys, wide receiver would be the other one. And you guys know how I feel about that. I've already been very vocal on that.
Yeah, you guys said it perfectly. I mean, I would even think, depending on how that wide receiver battle is going, maybe you bring in a wide receiver. To your guys' point that you made a couple months ago, but I would lean edge and. Yeah, I think edge has to be edge.
Yeah,
honestly. So I'm with you guys. All right, Patty Grimes, Mailbag. Who has more time this offseason, Lukas with internet or Davenport with injury?
Hey, fair take. Can't be mad. Can't be mad.
I think
I'll go Davenport with injury.
Yeah, we're gonna give the nod to Davenport. Keith O, Mailbag. When's the next live party that people can attend? You guys should do one for opening day of training camp or first game of the season.
I'll say we are going to do we don't know where yet, but for every game this season we will have I don't know, you'll be able to come because it's going to be at a bar or somewhere downtown, but we're going to do we're going to have a live a pregame show, a watch streamed where whoever is available out of us is going to be there. I'll be at every single one like last year at our previous place. I will be doing a watch stream, and obviously it's going to be a bar or a restaurant where you can come watch the game as well, but we'll obviously have our live stream going and on air in a post game. So that's for sure locked in. We're going to have shows for every single game downtown. I don't know about training camp's an interesting one. I wonder if we could do some sort of show live at Allen Park.
That's going to be probably a little more difficult, but we will be at training camp.
We will be there. Imagine us just down in training camp, just live, just.
I want to be like Big Cat. I just want to hang out behind the scenes. Just be right on the
sit
field.
down with Dan Campbell for a couple of hours or something.
All right, let's get to the next one here. Tyler, Mailbag. Who are your guys' offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year?
Defensive rookie of the year. That's a tough one because there's so many edges. I'd probably just lean to Latu just because there's so much on that defensive line to help him for defense, and then offensive rookie of the year. It's gonna be Caleb or Marvin, one of the two.
I think I would.
No, go on. You go, Boone. You go.
You sure?
Yeah, because I'm gonna be out. No, just go. You'll see why.
I think I would lean Caleb Williams for. I do think like Marvin's gonna have a big year, but as a quarterback, you tend to win that more often. And then actually, can I throw a dark horse?
What's up, Boone?
This is just a sprinkle. Good odds, good value here. Plus 600. Caleb Williams is plus 155, so he's the clear favorite. Plus 600. Someone who I know it's OTAs and minicamp. Be getting a lot of talking about over in Washington. The guy that I like, my quarterback in the draft this year. Last year I had Will Levis. I'm taking JJ out of the picture this year because he was Michigan and he's in Minnesota. Jayden Daniels. I said I thought Jayden Daniels was the number 2 overall quarterback in this draft. I think Jayden Daniels plus 600. I would not be shocked if they go out there. Like, they don't have that bad of a roster. We've talked about it before. And Dan Quinn, he's proven he can go out there and coach and get a team together. I wouldn't be shocked if Jayden Daniels is in the running for offensive rookie of the year. And then defensive rookie of the year, I'm gonna go Dallas Turner. Taking the Danielle Hunter spot. And I've heard rumblings that people in that camp there and players there are saying that they think that he's better than even Danielle Hunter. Like his skill set and what he can do, like his ceiling.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like obviously right now, but like what he can get to where if he does that right away, if he gets to that instantly, like, and you see guys do that all the time, I wouldn't be shocked.
That's how it always going to be, like in any situation. Like, oh, this guy's bad. Honestly, he's better than who he just lost. He's better than he is.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it. But yeah, I do agree with you though, Boone. The ceiling.
Jayden Daniels.
No, not with the take.
Oh no! Oh man!
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go, and this is gonna shock a lot of people. I'm gonna go Marvin Harrison Jr.
Ooh.
Yep. I don't think
Let's hear why.
Because I think he is in a prime position to just feast. I think he is just. You have Kyler Murray, who's proven he can feed. If he has a number 1 receiver, he will get him the ball. Caleb, and we have to think, like, Peyton Manning struggled his rookie year. Like, guys are going to struggle. I'm not going to – I get it's a quarterback award, but I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison. I just think it's impossible, near impossible for him to fail. Like, he is going to I can see him getting 1,300 yards year one.
That's how I say 1,300 yards, yeah.
Easily 1,300. So that, to me, that's like Justin Jefferson. What Justin had 14. Did he win offensive rookie year? Did he?
Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, there you go. And then,
yeah,
defensive. Lucas, me and you were Latu. That's our guy. So I'm gonna go with Latu.
I'm trying to think of the corners in that division. Like Tre'Davious Ward's good for the Niners. They got Tre'Davious White now for the Rams, but I don't think he's a Tre'Davious White of old. And then who's the other team I'm mind blanking on right now? The Seahawks. I guess they have a good secondary with Witherspoon. So yeah, he's got some good corners in the division, but I still think he's gonna, like you said, 1,300 yards.
He's just gonna get fed. Like hit targets are gonna be.
Like so many people like forget that he's 6'4". Like we think that he's like his dad and he's like 6 foot, 6'1", but this man's 6'4" and runs routes. Like he's almost like Chris Carter-esque. Like it's some of the best route running I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm. It's easy. Ooh, they my mailbag. I don't even know. Name the two best players in the NBA Finals. This I know easy. He's asking this probably because they got into a debate on heavyweights.
They did. When I was driving home from work today, I was tuned in. And
the only right answer is the two best players play for the Mavericks. That's the only two right. That's the only
agree.
Right
I agree. I think it's Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, baby. Right now, heading into the finals, those are the two best players right now.
Yeah. I agree.
Jason Tatum, I feel bad.
I don't want to like crap. Jason Tatum's a great, but yeah, Kyrie Irving. If I had to pick one for my roster, taking Kyrie every single time over him and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, Jason Tatum, dude, is just so inconsistent. I'm so tired of hearing about him. They've been in the Eastern Conference Finals 6 straight years. How many finals appearances? And the fact that they're 6 years into this thing, it's not even they're 6 years into it. They're like, what, 9 years into it almost. Like 8. I don't even know what it is. But like 6 years since they started going on these runs, and they haven't even won one yet. It's ridiculous, dude. I hope.
What did Easy say? Did he agree?
So he brought it up there, and he said he thinks it's Kyrie and Luka, and then he was just asking. He was like, "Is that crazy?" Spenny even was like, "No, I don't think it is." But I guess Spenny hates Jason Tatum. And then Nick,
because
Nick was
Chris compares everybody to Jason Tatum.
Chris probably disagreed, right? Did he disagree?
Chris was not there, but Nick disagreed and said people disrespect Jason Tatum too much. But I don't think that's true. I think people overrate Jason Tatum.
No, I think they disrespect him, but I don't think it's like egregious. Like no, he deserves.
Can we start talking some ball on here a little bit?
I was sad. He looks.
I mean, dude, you guys know my background basketball, and I'm just like, now that the Pistons, I've been waiting for the Pistons to move on. Like, I would love to just like maybe like a segment or two a week, just like let's have some basketball conversation.
I gotta go. I mean, we posted some basketball stuff, but yeah, I would love to talk. But I would love to talk.
We don't even have to post. We could just talk. Maybe even just off air. We just talk about it. I don't know.
Let's just get a cup of coffee. Let's just go talk ball.
Yeah,
I'm supposed to go to a team camp in a couple weeks. So I've got to get my mind right.
We appreciate you all for tuning in. All 200 plus of you that tuned in today. We appreciate
it. Hit that like button.
Friend to tell a friend. And also, on top of that, get your merch. OfficialCTSports.com. Merch is live. All right. And we're continuing to add more products. You guys have been showing so much support. And for that, we thank you so much, man. It really is humbling. I mean, seeing all the orders come through, and it's awesome. And we love doing it. So we're going to get in our bag closer to the season, more merch, more different stuff coming out, whether it's sweatpants or whatever the hell it is, everything. Until tomorrow, John Macaroon Wednesdays. You guys know what time.
Love you guys.
The Doc. Until tomorrow, we'll catch you. Stay blessed.
Good night.